today. It just, in my view, as the Prime Minister has said, just shows what two countries who trust each other, who are confident in each other and are familiar with each other can do, not just for ourselves, but for the rest of the world who need to benefit from a bigger and better international trading system.
Thank you very much. It was beautifully stated. What a beautiful accent. I'd like to have that accent. Thank you.
My mother would be proud.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
James Matthews from Sky News.
Yes.
Can I ask why Britain and why now? And you've described this deal as a full and comprehensive deal, and yet we've just heard from Mr. Matheson it's the end of the beginning. Clearly, there's much more work still to do. With respect, are you overstating the reach and significance of this deal because you're a president who needs a result at a difficult time?
I think that it's a great deal for both parties. It's for us. We're opened up. I didn't know how closed it was. Quite closed, the market, as you know, the UK, and it opens up a tremendous market for us, and it works out very well, and a lot of assets. You see the chart, and those are tremendous assets. But we've been trying, and when you say why us, meaning your country, we've been trying for years, and they've been trying for years to make a deal, including when I was in the, first term. It would always be people talking, but they weren't getting it done. But for 25 years before that, they were trying always to make a deal, a very significant deal. I actually, until I looked at the numbers, I didn't realize this is a very conclusive deal, but we think we can grow it even from that. But this is a maxed out deal, not like you said it. You said it really incorrectly. This is a maxed out deal that we're going to make bigger, and we make it bigger through growth. But we have tremendous assets involved. I was surprised to see how big your country is in trade, actually. One of the biggest in technology and so many other things. It's agriculture. I really didn't know. It's depending on your definition, it's from 4 to 5 to 6. That's pretty big in the world. So I was very impressed by that. But we're going to take it to new levels. It's a very big deal right now. But I think it is going to grow just of its own volition. It's going to grow, and over time there'll be changes made, there'll be adjustments made because we're flexible. We'll see things that we can do even better. But it's very conclusive, and we think everyone's going to be happy, and the people of your country are going to be very impressed with the result, and they'll be able to buy from more people. They'll be able to price things differently. They'll be able to get some products that aren't available to them now that we make better than anybody in the world. And it's just something that it's a great thing that it came together. It's so nice because we have many countries want to make a deal, and many countries are very unhappy that we happen to choose this one, to be honest with you. But it's a long time, our oldest ally, or just about. I guess a couple of people claim that too, but let's put it right at the top. I think it's going to be something very special for UK and special for the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reagan Reese with the Daily Caller. How close are you to more deals, and when do you expect the next to be announced?
Well, very close. We have numerous deals. I know Howard's going back. As soon as this is finished, your press conference, he's got numerous. And Scott, who's right over here, who's fantastic, by the way. You were great on television this morning. I watched you. Gave them a little lesson in the world and economics. But Scott's going to be going to Switzerland, meeting with China, and they very much want to make a deal. We can all play games. Who made the first call? Who didn't make the? It doesn't matter. It only matters what happens in that room. But I will tell you that China very much wants to make a deal. We'll see how that works out. Every country throughout the last 40, 50 years has literally ripped off the United States on trade, on military, on protection, on all the different things. And we are now making fair deals. And in this case, it's great because we really weren't very much involved. You have the European Union, which is, I think you made the right decision years ago. I don't know if you remember, I was opening up Turnberry the day that you were voting. And they asked me, would it happen or would it not happen? I said, no, I think they're going to go their own separate way. I think it's better for them. And they did. I think it's going to end up being a very smart decision. But a big part of that decision was always that you'd be able to make a deal with the United States, and they were unable to do that. But now they made it, and it's a tremendous, it's very important. That was always a big part of your decision on Brexit, and they were never able to make that deal. It was a tough one, and this one it's amazing with time. This one just went very smoothly, went quickly and smoothly, and a lot of common sense, as I like to say. It's tremendous common sense, but it's going to make your country much bigger in terms of trade, and it's going to make our country much bigger in terms of trade too. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Behind you.
Tom Bateman at the BBC. Thank you, Mr. President. You mentioned meat.
You're with who?
The BBC.
Oh, good. Very nice. They treat me beautifully.
You mentioned meat and beef exports. The UK currently doesn't accept American beef because of its own food standards. Are you calling on the UK to accept all American beef and chicken products?
Well, I think they'll take what they want. We have plenty of it. We have every type. We have every classification you could have. As you know, Bobby Kennedy is doing a tremendous job, and he's, I think, probably heading toward your system with no chemical, no this, no that. And I think we're heading that way, it seems to be. And but we have that also. So we're a very big country. We have a lot of beef. We're a very big country, so it'll be great. Yes. Yes.
Do you want me to jump in?
Yes.
Let's talk about American beef really quickly, and it can't be understated. I'm Brooke Rollins, by the way, how important this deal is and what this means to American farmers and ranchers. Specific to the beef, this is going to exponentially increase our beef exports. And to be very clear, American beef is the safest, the best quality, and the crown jewel of American agriculture for the world. So I think a really important part of this deal isn't just the ethanol reducing of tariffs from 19 to 0, which for our row croppers is a huge deal, but also for beef. And as we move forward, I know our incredible trade team is looking at all of the meats, all of the produce, really all of our agriculture exports. And I don't know if there's an industry that has been treated more unfairly and has suffered more than our agriculture industry. So we look forward to, I'll be in the UK on Monday, talking to my counterpart over there for next week, and look forward to moving that out across the country. The president is
I think we could say that we have the best in the world, best tractors, the best everything in the world. And they say that our agriculture is, second to none. You understand, and it'll be a great asset. People are going to be able to have options, choice, and they'll have more of it. And that usually means lower prices. How about we'll do you and then you?
A follow-up question for the Italian TV, Daniele Compatangelo, LA 7, TV 2000, Primetime Media. So congratulations for the deal. We see a big revenues from the chart. But what's the rest of Europe? It's a victory day, but other European countries, it seems like they're losing the train.
We intended to make a deal with Europe. We have found that the European Union treated us extremely unfairly, very difficult, and hurt themselves in doing so. And they very much want to make a deal. We'll be dealing with them. We are dealing with them currently. So that'll cover pretty much the rest of it. But this was separate because of Brexit in particular. This was a separate deal. It always seems so natural. I mean, all the media would say that this seemed to be like, why did this happen 25 years? Why didn't it happen a long time ago? And it was always amazing to me. Somebody would say, hey, we got to make a deal. We have to make a deal. But this deal just fell into place. The Prime Minister did a fantastic job. His representatives are total professionals, and they got along well, and it just seemed to work. And I think one of the reasons it did is because we blew up the whole system. If we would have just been dealing with you separately or, country by country, we blew up the whole system. It was very fair to very unfair to the United States. And I think because of that, this worked out so nicely, and I'm honored that it was the first deal. Please.
Sir, you mentioned.
Well, why don't you go in the back? Yes.
Oh, thank you, sir. I'm with the London Times. I would say this is a great day for James Bond because now Aston Martins will be available to American buyers. But it'll be even better by extending it to film. You've talked about a big tariff on films, and we'd like to know if there'd be relief on British.
Well, we're going to have a discussion on that separately. And as you know, we're putting tariffs on that particular film, you said, the movie makers. And we're going to be doing some tariffs to get them because a lot of them have left this country. They all live here. The money comes from here. Everything comes from here, but they make them in other countries. So we're going to do something to bring them back, maybe to a large extent. But James Bond has nothing to worry about that, I can tell you. James Bond. And you know, Sean Connery was a friend of mine. Sean Connery was responsible for my getting zoning in Aberdeen. He said, "Let the bloody bloke build his golf courses." And, you know, I was like 4 years into the process, and it was impossible in Aberdeen. And I don't know, he just stood up one day and he said that. As soon as he said that, I got the approvals in about 2 minutes. So he was a great guy, Sean Connery, and great character.
Later in the year, are you going to Scotland and to the UK?
I will be, sure. It's great. We have a lot of investment over there. We have Turnberry, Aberdeen. We have, as you know, in Doonbeg in Ireland, right on the ocean. They're all on the ocean. I only have interest if they're on the ocean. And we have good investments over there. It's been beautiful. Yes?
Mr. President, if the talks go well this weekend between Secretary Bessent and Ambassador Greer with their Chinese counterparts, not preemptively, but if the talks go well, would you then consider lowering the tariff rate on China?
Well, it could be. I mean, we're going to see. Right now, you can't get any higher. It's at 145, so we know it's coming down. I think we're going to have a very good relationship. You know, I always got along very well with President Xi. That relationship was greatly disturbed by COVID when COVID came in, but we get along very well now. I mean, the relationship was hurt with a lot of people, a lot of countries when COVID came in. But I think we're going to have a very good relationship. I expect to have a very good relationship with China, Scott. I think it's a very friendly meeting. They look forward to doing it in an elegant way. China, as you know, has a tremendous trade surplus with us, and we just can't have that. And but I think it's going to be very good for both countries. I would like to see China opened. You know, one of the big things here is, and nobody would know this, but the UK was largely closed. It was very much closed to trade, and now it's opened. And a lot of the financial reporters are very happy about that because so much. I listened to them. I hope they get countries opened up. And then you compete on a fair basis, but you can't compete when you're not allowed to go there. China would be the number one example of that. You know, it's very closed. We almost had it last time before COVID, and that didn't work out. But we made a great deal with China. They had to buy $50 billion worth of our food products, and it was a great deal, doing very well for our farmers. And then when Biden came in, as usual, nothing happened. You know, he didn't enforce it. And it got less, and ultimately, you know, it destroyed a great deal. That was a great deal. But no, I think that we're going to have a good weekend with China. I think they have a lot to gain. I do think they have far more to gain than we do, in a sense. But we're going to have I think we're going to have a very good weekend.
Will you speak to Xi after the weekend talks?
I might, yeah, sure. Depending on what Scott says, we Scott is doing certain countries and Howard's doing certain countries. I mean, I wish I had like 10 more of each, and then we could do them all at one time. But there will be a time we'll do a number of them, and then there'll be a time. I think I can say this, Scott and Howard, where we're just going to say, because we understand the countries, we understand what they want, where we're just going to make the deal. In other words, we don't need the country involvement because we've already had it. And we'll say this particular country, which had big surpluses, let's say, we had therefore deficits, that this particular country is going to pay a 25% tariff or a 30% or a 50% or 10% or whatever it may be. I think we should explain it now, Howard. One of the things we did here that we'll rarely do is on cars, we took it from 25 to 10 on Rolls-Royce because Rolls-Royce is not going to be built here. I wouldn't even ask them to do that. You know, it's a very special car, and it's a very limited number too. It's not, you know, one of the monster car companies that makes millions of cars. They make a very small number of cars that are super luxury, and that includes Bentley and Jaguar. So we have some very special cars. So in order to help that industry, and that's really, you know, handmade stuff. And they've been doing it for a long time in the same location. And I said, yeah, that would be good. Let's help them out with that one. But that's different than a car company that comes out and makes millions of cars, which they'll be doing in our country. They're going to build, we have many factories, car plants being built or going to be built very soon. I think we can say that we'll be close to $10 trillion of investment I think we're actually at that number now if you add up some of the ones we haven't heard about yet. I mean, we have some going up right now. They have plants going up, and they haven't even spoken to us. They're doing it because of the tariffs. And tariffs have always been used against us, and I never understood. I used to sit back. As you know, China paid hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs when I was president. But until then, China never paid anything. And, they really did a big number on us from the standpoint of trade. But we are using tariffs now for our benefit. And we have now close to $10 trillion. Think of that, $10 trillion. If you look at the past administration, and we're talking about over, essentially 2 months, because we could say 3, but it took a little while to get the office in perfect shape, right? It took a little while to get things done. But once we started, when you think of that, close to $10 trillion of investment, you've had years where the United States wouldn't do that wouldn't do $1 trillion in a year, wouldn't do anywhere near $1 trillion. We did $10 trillion in 2 months. So it's amazing what's happening. We're getting calls and that has to do with chips, has to do with cars. We used to make chips. We had Intel, and we used to make chips. We had a monopoly on chips. Everything was made here, and now, over a period of years, because of presidents that didn't know what they were doing, they allowed that business to be stolen from us. Most of it moved to Taiwan. And you probably were in the same position, right? Because you had a lot of the chip-making capacity, but they moved it in. And if we would have said, that's fine, if you want to move it to Taiwan, that's good, but if you want to sell back into the United States, we're going to put a 50% or 100% tariff on, they would have never left. But we had people sitting here that didn't understand that, and it's too bad. But now they're coming back, because I'm saying it about 40 years too late, but they're coming back. As you know, we have the biggest chip makers in the world spending, in one case, $300 billion, in one case, $500 billion, same as Apple, and in another case, $200 billion. And we're going to have a large share, a very, very substantial share of the chip-making market.
You said that this weekend is going to be a friendly visit, but do you expect that it will just be a formality to break the ice, or are they going to get into substantive negotiations?
I believe so, yes. I believe it's substantive, yes. I think people like to say, yes, we're having a meeting to meet. Well, we're meeting, so what are we going to do, talk about meeting again? I think it's going to be substantive. I think we can say that, right, Scott? Very substantive. Now, China wants to do something. And look, they have to at this point. Essentially, they made $1 trillion a year, and now they have absolutely, no business because of the tariffs. They have no business. And they want to have business, and we want them to have business. We want them to do well. We want them to do very well. So I think it's going to be very substantive.
Because business has slowed down, as you mentioned.
In China.
But we're seeing, as a result, the ports here in the U.S., the traffic has really slowed, and now thousands of dock workers and truck drivers are worried about their jobs.
Yeah, no, that means we lose less money. When I see that means we lose less money. Look, China was making over $1 trillion, 1.1 trillion, in my opinion. Different numbers from 500 billion to $1 trillion or $1 trillion. I think it was 1.1 trillion. And frankly, if we didn't do business, we would have been better off. Okay, you understand that. So when you say it slowed down, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. But we're going to make it so they can, I'd like to say they can do better, actually, in terms of the bottom line. We'd like to see China opened up so we can compete in China and, give people something that they've never had, access to something. That'd be great for the world. It would be great for our businesses. And I think it would be great for friendship. I really expect, a lot of people think I'm a militant guy. I'm really not. I think that trade can bring a greater friendship with China. It can be something good. But, one of the things that I know Scott's going to be talking about very high on the list is open up and let our businesses go into China, because when you talk about a closed country, that's a really closed country. And I think it would be great if it was opened up. It would give people a lot of choice and would create a lot of jobs, a lot of everything. So I think it would be a great thing for China. And that's going to be one of the things we'll be discussing, like we discussed with UK. Yeah, please.
So what does Britain have to do for you to drop the baseline 10% tariff that you're maintaining?
Well, I think that's set because that has to do with a lot of different things, including past. There are a lot of past things that we talk. This is very inclusive. We included everything, and that's pretty well set. Yeah, please.
Yeah, Mr. President, the 10% baseline tariff remaining in place, is that a template for these future trade deals? You say
No.
you're going to keep it here.
No.
Is it going to stay in every case?
No, that's a low number. They made a good deal. Some will be much higher because they have massive trade surpluses, and in many cases they didn't treat us right. One thing with UK, they had somewhat closed, not like a China as an example, but they always treated us with great respect. They treated us with great respect. The template of 10 is probably the lowest end, and therefore they made that deal. But they we've had just a very special relationship with them. Like, I won't do that deal with cars. I mean, unless somebody shows me that there's another kind of a car that's comparable to a Rolls-Royce, then there aren't too many. This is a good commercial for Rolls-Royce. They're going to order a lot of cars.
Mr. President, I wonder whether you'd like to buy. I mean,
well, the last time this happened,
I would be happy to suggest a discount, obviously a very modest discount. We have to protect our profit margin.
I've had many of them, actually. The last time that happened, I ended up buying a Tesla.
Thank you. Mary Margaret Ollahane with Daily Wire. I had a question about the UK deal today. I heard there was talk that part of the agreement would depend on whether the UK would respect free speech and freedom of religion. I know the VP is really interested in that, talked about that earlier this year. Was there any assurances that you guys got on that front?
You want to handle that?
Yeah, that was not part of the conversation. Our conversation was an economic conversation from start to finish, closed by the president yesterday. This was a business deal, open their markets, and also protect their workers, grow our markets, and help our workers.
This was about business religion. Business is sort of a semi-religion, but not nearly as important. I don't want to get myself into
Mr. President, will you be asking China to help you close, the gap between Ukraine and Russia?
I think so, yeah. I think it's a natural thing to ask.
What do you expect?
Sure. I don't know. I think we're making good progress. The fighting is a little bit different than it was. I think if we weren't involved, Russia would be, going at it to maybe get the whole thing. And without our involvement, they'd be able to get it because we supplied a lot of different things, foolishly. But we've been sort of paid back by doing the rare earth deal that I talked about before. I think that we will be very much involved in trying to get that bloodbath. It's a bloodbath. It's a horrible situation. 5,000. It's really more than that. But it's 5,000 soldiers on average a week, mostly soldiers, are being killed. Young, beautiful people. I mean, they're being killed. I see the satellite pictures coming back, body parts lying all over fields, heads and arms. It's so terrible. I've never seen anything like it, actually. And if we can get that stopped, that will be a great accomplishment. And we're trying very hard. And I think we're close. And Mr. Witkoff is talking constantly back and forth. He's a real professional who's got a great relationship with both countries. And I think we have a good chance. And likewise, we're trying to work on Iran to get that solved without having to get into any bombing. As we say, big bombing. I don't want to do that. I want them to work a deal. I want them to be very successful.
Mr. President, Edward Lawrence from Fox Business. Yes. On the non-market barriers, how did you get the UK to bend, and what was the 11th hour deal or ask?
Well, I think it was really just a part of the overall. I mean, they have so many things that are so good for them. It's going to be so good for the country, and that was sort of easy. It wasn't. We had non-market. I call it non-market or non-monetary trade barriers, and we had quite a few of them. Not nearly as bad as some countries. Some countries have, they have virtually no tariff, but the rest of it is so brutal you can't do business with them, right? So it's a very important question, actually. No, I think the overall deal just worked out very well from their standpoint. They were willing to give that in order to get other things, and you might want to speak to that, Mr. Abbas.
Look, the point about the deal is that we will continue reducing tariffs and non-tariff barriers. This is a continuing picture. It's a movie. It's not a still picture here. It's a movie. Yeah. It continues. And we're both committed to freeing up trade between our countries. We're both committed to freeing up investment between our countries. And the point about this deal is that it provides a very good template and a very good launch pad for what we can continue to do and build on in the future. And that's what we're both determined to do.
You know, many of the, well, wait a second.
That's between us.
Many of these, we'll keep it confidential. How about just one more little thing, right? It got the deal closed, and it was handled very well from the other side, too. But many of these things that we're talking about, we've been talking about this for 25 years. It's hard to explain when, if you weren't sitting behind this beautiful Resolute desk, you just wouldn't get it. I have been hearing about making a deal with UK for 25 years. And especially around the time of Brexit. They wanted to make a deal, so they came out of Brexit and they make a deal, and how natural. And it just couldn't be done. It couldn't be done. Good people. And this is a bigger deal. This is a much bigger, better, stronger deal for both of us than we ever even contemplated before. It's a big deal.
Virtually everyone said that it would end in failure, it would end in tears, and it's ended in exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
But, Mr. President, can I say that that is due to Secretary Lutnick and Ambassador Greer, who've been absolutely fantastic. But
right.
Yesterday I received a call, a very diplomatic call that just edged things over the line, and that was from your new ambassador in the United Kingdom.
Who is terrific. Right?
Warren Stevens, he's here.
Where is Warren?
Right here.
Hello, Warren.
How are you?
He's flying to London tomorrow night. He's going to be very popular with the British people. He's going to be a very successful ambassador.
Mr. President.
And?
Were you disappointed?
And he's got plenty of cash. That guy's plenty of cash.
We need some more big spenders.
Are you planning to meet Ursula von der Leyen?
We're going to go ahead fast.
Yeah, are you planning to meet Ursula von der Leyen, the president, or do you plan to cancel anytime soon?
Oh, she's so fantastic, right? She's so fantastic. I hope we're going to meet. Yeah, the answer is yes. I saw her a few days ago. And I think that we'll definitely meet, yeah. The European Union is a big thing. They want to make a deal very badly. You know, everybody wants to make a deal. Look, everybody wants to make a deal with the United States, and we're doing that, and we're going to make fair deals. I'm just honored that this was the first one. Go ahead, please.
The Federal Reserve Chairman, Mr. President, says that you would have to call him for a meeting. Do you plan to meet with him? And what do you think about?
And it's like talking to a wall. He should be.
What do you think about not cutting? The Bank of England cut today.
Well, the Bank of England cut. China cut. Everybody's cutting but him. It's I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's a shame. I call him Too Late, Too Late Powell, that's his nickname, and it's a shame, it's ridiculous. So, a meeting, he's always too late. But in this case, it's not going to matter that much because our country is so strong. We're so powerful in terms of economic strength and what we've done. And I'll tell you what, if we didn't have our first term, you wouldn't be. We created things in the first term. We cut more regulations than any president in history. We cut the taxes more than anybody in history. And a very big factor is going to be the tax bill that we have right now, the one big beautiful bill, as we call it, which is all-encompassing, the biggest tax cuts ever in history, bigger than even the first time. And the incentives, even great for the UK, because it'll make us so strong that we're going to be doing more business with you. It's a very important element for taxes, for every aspect, regulation cuts. That bill is, I believe it's the biggest bill of its kind ever in the history of this country. And Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune have done an incredible job. I mean, I'll let you know we have to get a vote, but we have a lot of support for that bill. And if that happens on top of all of these trade deals that we're doing, this country will hit a point that you better go out and buy stock now. Let me tell you, this country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up. This is going to be numbers that nobody's ever seen before. That's a very important element of all of this. If we get that, If you don't, and the Democrats are fighting it only because they want to fight. They have Trump derangement syndrome. You know, if it was somebody else, they wouldn't fight. If you had a normal person, if you had some stiff sitting behind you, they'd be fine. But they have Trump derangement syndrome. You know, Senator Schumer's become a Palestinian. He's welcome. I don't know when they're going to give him the ceremony, whatever the ceremony may be. But it's terrible what's happened to the Democrats. So very, very important element of everything, of what we're doing, unrelated to today, but related in the sense that we'll do, if that passes, we'll do even more business with the UK. We'll have so much. It's the biggest tax cut in history. It's going to make our country zoom. It's going to be incentive, as you know, with the deduction for basically for work. You build, you plant, etc. Your deduction. It's going to be the biggest. It's the biggest bill of its kind ever passed. Maybe the biggest bill ever passed. That's why we call it the one big beautiful bill.
You just announced a new nominee for the U.S. Surgeon General who never finished her residency and is not a practicing physician. So can you explain why you picked her to be America's top doctor?
Because Bobby thought she was fantastic. She's she's a brilliant woman who went through Stanford, and as I understand it, she basically wanted to be an academic as opposed to a surgeon. I think she graduated first in her class at Stanford. And Bobby really thought she was great. I don't know her. I listened to the recommendation of Bobby. I met her yesterday and once before. She's a very outstanding person, a great academic, actually. So I think she'll be great.
Your nominee for U.S. Attorney of D.C., do you have a backup plan if this Senate does not?
But he's a terrific person, and he wasn't getting the support from people that I thought. You know, he's done a very good job. Crime is down 25% in D.C. During his period of time. I'm very disappointed in that, but I have so many different things that I'm doing now with the trade. You know, I'm one person. I can only I can only lift that little phone so many times in a day. But we have somebody else that will be great. I just want to say Ed is unbelievable, and hopefully we can bring him into whether it's DOJ or whatever, in some capacity, because really outstanding. To me, it was disappointing, I'll be honest. I have to be straight. I was disappointed. A lot of people were disappointed. But that's the way it works sometimes, you know. That's the way it works. And he wasn't rejected, but we felt it would be hard. And we have somebody else that we'll be announcing over the next 2 days who's going to be great.
With companies like Ford and Mattel recently saying they're going to raise prices on certain products, how long do you think the American public is going to be patient?
Yeah. Well, I think they're saying that just to try and negotiate deals with me. They're not. Look, tariffs are the most misunderstood thing maybe in any form of business, anywhere in business. Oftentimes the country picks them up. Oftentimes the company picks it up. The people don't pick it up. Okay, the people don't pick it up. And if Ford did that, they wouldn't sell any cars. And if Mattel, I don't know, I'm not so sure. They also said they're the only country I've heard. They said, well, we're going to go counter. We're going to try going someplace else. That's okay. Let him go, and we'll put 100% tariff on his toys, and he won't sell one toy in the United States, and that's their biggest market. I heard that. I mean, I watched this guy talking about how I'm going to go counter. I said, well, I wouldn't want to have him as an executive too long. The Ford people I know very well. What they're doing is negotiating with us by saying that. But we don't think that's going to happen. Look, I put out a truth today, and it said that gas is down, gasoline is down, energy is down, groceries are down, eggs are down. I mean, eggs, thank you very much, but eggs are down. When I came in the first week, you guys hit me with eggs. I said, what the hell happened with eggs? Eggs were up like 170% and going up, and they said don't order any for Easter. And we were thinking about ordering plastic eggs like everybody was doing. And Brooke did a fantastic job, agriculture. Brooke did a fantastic job. And we had hundreds of thousands of eggs out here on the lawn just 2 weeks ago at Easter. But you take a look at the cost. Energy's down. Even interest rates are down. Now, if the chairman of the Fed, Jerome, if he would lower interest rates like China did, like I think UK did, but like numerous other countries have done, it's like jet fuel. It would be great. But he doesn't want to do it. I think he doesn't want to do it. Probably he's not He's not in love with me. I think that's right. It's sort of a crazy reason, but that's the way life is. Anybody in his position would be like, it would be like jet fuel. But even without that, we're doing well. But remember this, I've watched you people reporting over the last few months that if we do this, prices are going to go through. Well, groceries are down. All of this stuff is down. Lumber is down. Oil is gone to, we have that thing broke 60, right? $60 a barrel. And $1.98, $1.99 in some cases. And heading in that direction. No, I think it's been amazing, actually. And what that's good for, it gives the consumer more money, and it gives them a better life, because we just came out of the worst inflation, in my opinion, in the history of our country. They say 48 years. But Biden really screwed it up. He screwed up energy. And he also he spent too much money. He was spending it on, a green new scam. And that's like throwing the money. See that beautiful window behind? Take money, throw it right out that window, because it's the same thing. He spent $10 trillion. He wasted it. Not only was it bad, it was a negative. It wasn't even like it helped a little bit. It was a real negative. And then on top of it, they let 21 million people into our country without any identification, anything. Just let them in. It's very, very sad. Well, we'll do one or two more. Go ahead. Who are you with?
I'm with the Daily Telegraph. Now, you know me from another picture.
I do.
How concerned are you about the UK's reliance on China? Chinese money in the money market, Chinese exports.
We're not concerned.
Is that something that came up in
honestly,
discussions?
I'm not concerned about anything. If I was, I wouldn't even be here right now. If I was concerned about anything, and it wouldn't be that, but I wouldn't be here right now. No, we're not concerned. We're going to have, I believe, a very good relationship with China, and a fair relationship, and it'll get bigger and it'll grow. It'll grow. As an example, if they open up the country, that'll be the best thing China ever did for itself. They don't know that yet because, it's been a different system. But that'll be the greatest thing that ever happened to China. The people will be happier. They'll buy for less. They'll see things that they never saw before, and they'll be buying them. And it'll really create great long-term peace.
And if I could ask one of the Agriculture Secretary, actually, there's a lot of concern about chlorinated chicken, the import of hormone-treated beef. Has that question been addressed, resolved in these talks, or is that something for the continuing negotiations?
Well,
James.
I would just say that it's very clear, and we have in the heads of terms that we are going to discuss all of these types of issues, and obviously the importing country, whether it's us or them, you got to follow the rules on those types of things. But our point is the rules need to make sure that they are based on science, and that's our expectation. We know the UK believes that too, so we want to come to an accommodation. We want the consumers in each country to be able to choose what they want and give them the information that they want.
And we have an incredible EPA led by Administrator Zeldin that is on this. So the talks continue, but we are very, very confident in our products, and what the president has done to open up the markets is unprecedented for these farmers here in America. Thank you.
Message from Wall Street as they watched this. You saw the stock market decline sharply after Liberation Day, and it's rallied back since then.
Well, now it's going to really rally, because, don't forget, they said this is all a pipe dream. And this is a tough one. This is, somebody would say, well, this is easy. This is much tougher, I think, than any other deal, because they've been at it for so many years, decades, trying to make this deal. And it's very conclusive, and it's a great deal, and it's a very big deal, actually. No, this is just the beginning. We're going to be having conferences, or at some point we won't have, we'll just put out a statement that we just signed this country, that country. And after a number of these are done, nobody has enough people to do it. We're just going to put out X country is going to pay this, and if they open up, they're going to do this and that, and they're going to be open up. Everybody wants to be here. I say this is where they want to be shopping. They want to shop in this country because we have the consumer, and we have the consumer like nobody else. And if this country went bad, the whole world would go bad. But we really saved it from going bad. Yeah, please.
So can I ask you about the air traffic control issue? Are you looking at getting new software?
I'm glad you asked me about it, because I'm just going to be talking to now with the heads of the airlines and everything else. So I was all set before we had the rigged election to give out a brand new gorgeous system to one company that was going to do the whole thing, one of the best companies in the world that you know very well. There are 3 or 4 of them that do it. And when they took over, Buttigieg, who has no clue, he drives to work on his bicycle with his, in all fairness, with his husband on the back, which is a nice, loving relationship. But he didn't have a clue. This guy didn't have a clue. And he's actually a contender for president. Between him and Crockett, you can have that party. But he didn't know what he was doing. And he took what they call dry systems where you have wires in the earth, buried in the earth or whatever. And then you have the open air systems where you have satellites, and you can't mesh them. Anybody would know that if you went through about 2 months of study in school, if you studied that kind of thing. And he did. They spent tens of billions of dollars trying to take old, broken equipment and merging it into existing new equipment with brand new equipment. It's one of the greatest. They spent like $40 billion. And what they did is they made it worse because it doesn't work together. You can't make it work together. If you have a satellite system, you need satellite. If you don't, they had all these different technologies, some of them 50 years old, and they're trying to mesh them in. And they end up spending twice the money they should have. You could have bought a whole new system. So we have a very good guy who you all know, Sean Duffy, is head of transportation, and I've given him a 10-minute lesson in buying, and he's become really good. And we are now in the market to buy a gorgeous, brand new system. The helicopter that crashed into the plane at 400 feet, it shouldn't have been. What would have happened is all sorts of bells and sirens would have been going off 3 minutes before that accident happened, if you had the right equipment, but they didn't. And the new equipment is unbelievable what it does. You can have, I was going to say something, but you always, in my opinion, you always need pilots. I want pilots. But you wouldn't even have to have pilots. This system is so incredible what they can do. But we have a system that's obsolete. And what they did is the worst. They tried to combine the really old, broken stuff with the new stuff, and you can't combine it, and anybody should have known. So Biden, do you think Biden figured this out? I don't think so, fellas. Do you think he has any clue? He doesn't know what the hell's happening. So here's the story. We're going to be buying a brand new, it's going out to bid very soon, brand new state-of-the-art system that will cover the entire world. I'll give you an example. When my pilot, now I have military pilots, but prior to that I have very good pilots, great pilots. They would land, and I won't tell you which country, but they would use the system of another country. They wouldn't even use the system of the United States. So if I'm landing in New York or Florida or Tennessee, they're using a system from another country. I said, why is that? And they were, they're not into business, but they're just saying, our system doesn't work, sir. And I said, boy, that's pretty sad. But we were all set to give it out to, look, you have a Raytheon and you have different companies like that, numerous companies. And you have companies that would do it, like an IBM, as an example. And you give out one deal, one contract. They gave out hundreds of contractors. They had diggers. They had non-diggers. They had people that focused on satellites. They had hundreds of different contracts. One contract where one guy is controlling everything. If you need a trench, then they dig a trench. But if you don't dig the trench, they don't blame you. What happens is you don't dig it, then they say we want a cost overrun. Now, we have it all set, and we're going to be doing it. We would have done it, except that the election took a little strange turn. But the second one didn't. That was too big to rig. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
News conference from Donald Trump on what he's calling victories. Good to see you.
What a historic press conference meeting we just witnessed, just for good measure. Let's see what Jen Psaki was saying last night, and we will deliver a live on-air fact check of her brilliance.
It's been a month, if you can believe it, since Donald Trump announced his sweeping and pretty ridiculous tariffs. But Mr. Art of the Deal, as he calls himself, has not yet struck a single trade deal, not a single one, with any single country.
Well, I think Mr. Art of the Deal is delivering on his promises. Maybe I'll have to bestow you with the new title of Miss Information. I'll read you some cold, hard facts that I'm sure are hitting MSNBC pretty darn hard. $5 billion increase in new market access, $6 billion in tariff revenue just off of this one trade deal alone. UK tariffs were originally 5.1%, dropped down now to 1.8%. US tariffs were 10%, now they are 3.4%. As you guys saw, if you watched that whole conference, the UK will reduce numerous non-tariff barriers that have unfairly discriminated against American products, billions for increased market access for American exports, especially agriculture, beef, ethanol, virtually all of these products which are produced by our wonderful, wonderful American farmers, new market access for American machinery and chemicals, and bringing the UK into the economic security alignment with the US, ensuring a strong industrial base, protections for steel, and of course affirming reciprocity and fairness. As I'm sure Steve would say, suck on that, MSNBC, and how about the Chinese Communist Party and all of the global elites that have done every single thing in their, I guess, unmatched power to try to tank President Trump's, not just the stock market, but his efforts to reorient the global economy so it works for you. Putting working class Americans first and not global elites. I guess that's bad for the MSNBC business model. Mike Lindell, I think we've got you. You've always put American workers first with everything you got going on at MyPillow. You got about a minute. Hit us with the latest deals.
Yeah, you guys, it's a 50% off War Room special, but here's what we're doing. So you're getting 50% off. Go down. A lot of the items, most of the items are 50% off or more. But if you buy $100 or more today, I'm going to match that with $100 in free digital gifts. You guys are going to absolutely love them. So do your shopping today. Get those crosses. You go to the website, you scroll down, click on Steve. There's the crosses, 50% off. You've all waited for this. We've got the My Pillows are over 50% off. You got the sheets are over 50% off. This 50% off still exclusive to the War Room Posse. Promo code War Room, everybody. But remember, you're getting a bonus $100 in free digital gifts, which you're going to remember. You're getting a bonus $100 in free digital gifts, which you're going to absolutely love. It's a great surprise for the War Room Posse. You guys have had my employees back. 800-873-1062. You're going to get a USA operator. What a concept.
I think you call it a win-win-win-win, though I think for today's trade deal, we'll have to add yet another win on that. Mike Lindell, thank you for joining us. Warren Posse, thanks for hanging with me. And I guess President Trump this morning. I will be back at 6 p.m. Until then, have a good one.
Charlie Kirk Show starts now.
This morning, I'm thrilled to announce that we have reached a breakthrough trade deal with the United Kingdom. It's really, in particular, the agreement with one of our closest and most cherished allies. And we're so happy that that's the way it worked out.
President, if the talks go well this weekend between Secretary Bessent and Ambassador Greer with their Chinese counterparts, not preemptively, but if the talks go well, would you then consider lowering the tariff rate on China?
Well, it could be. I mean, we're going to see. Right now, you can't get any higher. What's coming down? I think we're going to have a very good relationship. You know, I always get along very well with Britain.
I think the common theme here is you putting words in my mouth, and I'm not going to tolerate it. If you want to talk about someone who was attacked by a weaponized bureau, you're looking at him. And now he's the director of the FBI, and he's cleaning it up.
I just want to begin by saying that this is a very special day because it's Victory Day, World War II, May 8th. And it's just incredible that that day is the same day that we signed a tremendous trade deal for both countries.
Did Jeffrey Epstein hang himself or did somebody kill him?
Senator, I believe he hung himself in a cell in the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Are you going to release all the information about that?
Senator, we are working through that right now with the Department of Justice.
When do you think you'll have it done, Cash?
I think in the near future, sir.
Like before I die?
We're doing it in a way that protects victims and also doesn't put out into the ether information that is irrelevant for production of the public.
So I'm going to begin by just adding that we just concluded the rare earth deal with Ukraine. That's been fully ratified and approved by their legislative branches, and so we appreciate that, and I'll be speaking with the president in a little while, a little bit later, and we appreciate that, but the deal is all now signed up and ratified, and we have access to a massive amount of very, very high-quality rare earth.
What's your total deportation so far?
Well over 100,000. We're going to increase worksite enforcement. Because of Sanctuary Cities policy, what we're going to do with Sanctuary Cities, we're going to flood the zone. So if one agent can't arrest one bad guy in the jail and they choose to release him in the community, it means I can send a whole team to look for him. So in Sanctuary Cities, we're going to flood the zones with agents. If we can't take them in the jail, like we should, the safety and security of the jail, then we'll go to the community and find them. And that takes a lot of people. So if we can't arrest them in the jail, we'll arrest them in the community. If we can't find them in the community, we'll arrest them at the work site. We're going to increase worksite investigations too.
Local leaders are promising to notify illegal immigrants if there is an ICE operation on the way. Congressman Andy Oakles and John Rose, who both represent Tennessee, say they are watching how these immigration crackdowns play out and whether some of our local leaders try to hide people in advance.
Once again, I want to thank Prime Minister Starmer. He's been terrific for his partnership in this matter, the special relationship and external bond. It's really an external and an internal bond between our two countries will soon be stronger than ever before. And we really do. We have a great relationship. I want to just say that the representatives of UK have been so professional. And it's been an honor doing business with all of them, and in particular the Prime Minister. And the deal includes billions of dollars of increased market access for American exports, especially in agriculture, dramatically increasing access for American beef, ethanol, and virtually all of the products produced by our great farmers. In addition, the UK will reduce or eliminate numerous non-tariff barriers that unfairly discriminated against American products. But this is now turning out, I think, really to be a great deal for both countries because it'll be really great for the UK also. They'll also be fast-tracking American goods through their customs process, so our exports go to a very, very quick form of approval, and there won't be any red tape. Furthermore, in a historic step, the deal includes plans that will bring the United Kingdom into the economic security alignment with the United States. That's the first of its kind. So we have a big economic security blanket.
Every day, there's a battle for your mind raging. Information coming from every angle with the will to deceive. Fear not. You found the place for truth. The voice of a generation that still has the will to believe in the greatest country in the history of the world. This is the Charlie Kirk Show. Buckle up. Here we go.
Okay, everybody, radio stations across the country, happy Thursday. We're here at the Bitcoin.com studio. Buy and sell Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. We here have some amazing breaking news. President Donald Trump was in the Oval Office early this morning, earlier than usual, announcing a historic and record trade deal with the UK. President Donald Trump, as you know, has been embarking on a new path for American trade. And this is where all the experts were wrong about President Trump, and they were all wrong about what he was doing. You see, he was not only using tariffs to try and raise revenue for the federal government. He was not just only using tariffs as a way to try to encourage American investment and manufacturing, both of which are happening. But instead, he invented the tariff as a third thing, as a negotiating tool. Now, mind you, what was announced today is something that Joe Biden was never able to do, Barack Obama was never able to do. The United Kingdom, despite being a very close ally of the United States, was a very closed economy. And listening carefully to what President Trump announced today, and we're going to play a lot of this tape, it was very clear what President Trump's mentality is when it comes to trade. You see, the media, and if you watch CNBC, and if you watch all the talking heads on the economics networks and the financial networks, they're there to make you seem as if President Trump wants to be an isolationist, that he doesn't want to trade with the rest of the world. No, no, no. What President Trump wants is us to no longer just buy from the rest of the world. That President Trump does not want us to be solely purchasers, but also producers. He wants the purchasing and the producing to be equally yoked. You see, President Trump wants to make America the world's shopping destination. There's nothing wrong with being a consumer economy, but if you are only a consumer economy, then you're actually not a country. What President Trump announced today, and this is the United Kingdom trade deal, let's put it up on screen, is remarkable. $5 billion in new export access for our goods and services. Trump's global tariffs on steel and aluminum are removed from the United Kingdom. The 25% foreign car tariff is lowered to 10% for the first 100,000 cars. The United Kingdom exported 101,000 cars to the United States last year, so this almost matches the current volume. Let's get this up on screen. Thank you. Over $6 billion in new tariff revenue, so we're going to be able to get more tariff revenue to hopefully pay down our deficit and fund our government. This is my favorite part. And interestingly, you could make an argument. And again, all the libertarians and all these squawkers on TV, they are so dishonest. According to this, you could make the argument that President Trump is far more free trade than Joe Biden. The United Kingdom tariffs were 5.1%. Now they're 1.8%. Reciprocity. That is what President Trump has always been focused on. I'm going to use the shock and awe liberation tariffs, boom, to bring you to the table. And if you don't do a deal, they will stay. Oh, looks like they have a pope. That's a big deal. So let's keep our eyes on that. We'll be out within minutes. We're going to definitely have to cut to that. Sorry, Andrew, you got to cancel all the guests. We got to go live for whomever the new pope is. So we're going to do that on real time. So it looks like white smoke has been seen at the conclave. Very quick conclave there. Wow, what a day. So you got new deals with the United Kingdom. We got a whole pipeline of new deals coming, and you got a new pope as well. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Let's do a picture-in-picture. Thank you, guys. That is a live view of the Sistine Chapel of white smoke. A lot shorter than the 3-year conclave before. So we're going to pivot here a little bit by also talking about the trade deals. You see, Trump closes the big, bold, and America First trade deals. He's not locking the world out. He's locking in record demand for U.S. goods. Tariffs were used to be able to have President Trump cut ribbons on open markets and booming exports. And now the real question on everyone's mind is, will President Trump seek a new Vatican trade deal with the new pope? They are a sovereign country with, I will be honest, fair amount of purchasing power. There's a lot of wealth in the Vatican. This is a historic moment that you're watching here right now, an announcement of a new pope, and we're going to be watching that live here. We'll just cut straight to the Sistine Chapel or whomever is covering it, or I'll do my best to try to announce this live. It looks like Real America's Voice has the coverage right now as this is happening. A lot of celebration happening live on the St. Peter's Basilica Square. A lot happening. Let me close on the trade thing, and then we'll talk about the Pope, because this is a very breaking news day here. President Trump has turned trade talks into triumphs. He's turned negotiations into wins, and the market is responding favorably. I told you guys, don't be a panicker. Don't keep your head down. Don't look at your portfolio. Well, the market is up 500 days. And look, markets will go up and markets will go down and markets will spin around. But now we have unprecedented access to ethanol, beef, cereals, fruits, vegetables, animal feed, tobacco, soft drinks, shellfish, textiles, chemicals, machinery, and more will then be able to be sold more easily in the United Kingdom. Huge trade win. We'll talk more about that, but let's get to the even more breaking news.
We're interrupting this program for a special live report.
Welcome back, everyone. Terrence Bates here, taking you live to the White House where President Trump is about to speak. There's also an announcement about a new pope, so let's listen in to see if the president addresses that.
A very big deal with the UK, United Kingdom, on trade, which is shocking everybody. They said, oh, gee. And we just had the Ukraine. We just were notified that Ukraine just approved our big rare earth deal, which could be worth trillions of dollars. A lot. And overall, we're doing very well. We have a lot of things happening. We have a very big conversation in Switzerland taking place this weekend with China. Has anyone heard of China recently? Yes. And they want to make a deal very badly, and I wouldn't be surprised, but we have tremendous things happening on trade, the likes of which we've never seen before. The UK deal was a big one. They've been trying to make that deal for 25 years. They've been unable to do it, and we were able to do it, and it was really something special. The Prime Minister was on the phone and the whole thing. It was really great. And now they're negotiating various other very, very big, strong trade deals. Nobody thought it would be possible, Claudia. Look at our great Congresswoman over there. Nobody thought it would be possible. Look at, wow, we have senators. We have the whole ball game here, huh? Hi, Johnny. So with that, I'll thank everybody for being here. This is a special building, a very, very special place. There's nothing like it anywhere in the world. No matter where you go, they come in, they say, wow, this is something. And I want to give a very big welcome to the White House and all of the people that come here and they love this place, but most importantly to the military moms, by far the most important, right, JD? It's still a few days early, but let me be the first to wish everybody a very happy Mother's Day. It's going to be a great Mother's Day, and very happy. I had a great mother. I had a mother. She was such an angel. She could be very tough, I will say, but she had her tough moments, some difficult moments she had, Pam, but overall, very, very good, I will tell you. I had a great one. I especially want to thank one of the best moms that I know that I've ever seen. Sometimes she's almost too good. She is so good with Barron, but he's growing up strong and nice, and he's a good boy. He's a good student, so I want to thank you. You've done a great job. Thank you, honey. Great First Lady. And thanks as well to Marine veteran, Vice President J.D. Vance, and to Second Lady Usha Vance, a mother of 3 young children. And we know that they're going to do very well in school because they were the 2 top students at Yale Law School. So genetically, they should be in good shape, right? They're not going to say, gee, Mom, I can't figure this out. But also with us is Attorney General, special person, by the way, Pam Bondi. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Pam. And Secretary Hegset's wonderful wife, Jennifer. Jennifer? Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Dan. And Press Secretary Caroline Levitt. Hey, she's become a star. Where's Caroline? Look at her. I don't know, that face. She's become a big star. Don't ever leave us, you know? Don't ever leave us. Thank you also to Senator Joni Ernst, a very good person, friend of mine. Thank you very much. Very military person, too. Great representative of the military, and also Representatives Claudia Tenney and Marionette Miller Meeks, and you are right here. Where are you? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Claudia. All of our American service members are heroes, and our military mothers are doubly so. It's really doubly so what you have to go through. You make them great. You really do. You make people great. Each of the women here today has made extraordinary sacrifices for family and country. You've endured time away from your children. You've endured time away from everything. You've missed birthdays and holidays. You've missed so much, but you wouldn't trade it for the world. I know that. You wouldn't trade it for the world. As for spouses of our service members, we're never forgetting the burdens that you bear when your loved ones are deployed and the sacrifices you have to go through. As military moms, you make these sacrifices in your families so that all of our families can be safe and be free. Our country is strong and respected because you choose to live the life of service, and you have done that. Incredible people. As your Commander-in-Chief, let me take this opportunity to salute you and to thank you on behalf of every single American. Every single one respects you and loves you. Thank you. And represented in this room are the nation's finest Army, Navy, Air Force, Space Force. I love Space Force, you know. I have a special little feeling for Space Force. When I did it, they said, you're kidding, and now we're #1 in space by a lot. We were getting decimated in space, but now we're #1 by a lot. I was very proud of that. First time in 78 years that we had a new force. Coast Guard and Marines, I especially want to thank those of you who support the First Lady and me every day, including the military and social aides here and in the White House. Incredible support. In this room are crew members of Air Force One, said to be the best pilots in the world. I don't know. Where are you? Raise your hands. I want to get ready. We're going to take a little trip this weekend. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Said to be the best. You better be the best because I'm traveling with you. Nurses from the White House Medical Unit, musicians from our great military bands. They do such beautiful work. When we have dignitaries, they come around. They're as good as anybody in the world. You can go to the Philharmonic of any place, and they're as good as anybody. And so many others, dedicated and devoted service members. You all do an outstanding job, and you should take tremendous pride in what you're doing and what you do. I'm pleased to report that since November, enlistment numbers for every branch of the armed forces has surged to the highest levels in 48 years. Can you imagine? Now, I do want to say that during the campaign, I used it all the time because it was good to use. I use whatever I have to do to win. You don't mind, do you? But I used it all the time. Your numbers were so bad. It was so embarrassing. Nobody was signing up. Nobody wanted to go in the armed forces. Nobody wanted to be a policeman. Now, just a short time later, that was in June, July, and then we started surging, and they started getting better and better, right, JD? But once November 5th took place, they had numbers signing up like we've never seen before, probably, maybe ever. But they say the minimum, you're talking 30, 40 years. Nobody wanted to sign up. They weren't proud of our country. Now they're so proud of our country that we have the highest. We've attained the highest levels, I think, ever. And the police forces, too. And the firefighters. I never forget the firefighters. They're all doing great because people now love our country and they're proud of our country again. And it's only been really 3 months. So it's not that bad, right? Right, honey? I think maybe they're like our First Lady and our incredible Usha, Second Lady. I always have a hard time saying Second Lady. I'm not sure is that a compliment or not. I say, JD, do you like me calling her the Second Lady? I don't know. That's the way it's been. She is a great person, great person. We used to have shortages. Now we have waiting lists because of all of this great spirit that's really devolved. It's been incredible. So as we celebrate military mothers today, we look forward to an incredible future for the United States Armed Forces and for our country itself, and for those great service members and for all of you who love them so much. And now it's my pleasure to introduce that very special woman that I talked about, our great First Lady, and she's loved by all. I just walked by the Rose Garden, and that is the most beautiful thing. We saw it yesterday. She took a lot of heat. She did it. It was so gorgeous, and these people couldn't do that if they tried. And those flowers were blooming. I said, how the hell? Two weeks ago, this is like beautiful green, but it was not. And now it just happened so quickly. But you did some job. Thank you very much, honey. Come on up.
It's okay. No worries. Welcome. And thank you very much for your kind words. Motherhood. The life-changing event that makes women invincible and exposed at the same time. It's remarkable, really, that my son's life creates unimaginable, unpredictable concerns and thrills for me, even until this day. All caring mothers understand this rare feeling. Nothing against fathers, of course. But in my opinion, and I'm sure everyone in this room agrees, only a mother can grasp this particular point. Military mothers and America, together, have developed an extraordinary parallel journey. They are filled with stories of personal sacrifice, determination, loss, and healing. Certainly, only military mothers have experienced this level of grace and resilience of American life. And finally, aging. A sudden shift in family dynamics. An unexpected positioning change in life when caretakers become the caregivers. If this has happened within your family, you understand the precious nature of motherhood. Here now, in the White House, at this pivotal moment, I urge you to prioritize your well-being. Nurture yourself, for your strength is the bedrock of a brighter future for our children. By caring for ourselves, we empower the next generation to thrive. Together, let's build a legacy of resilience and hope. Your journey matters. Embrace it. And indeed, the sacred strength of women at this pivotal moment, I urge you to prioritize your well-being. Nurture yourself, for your strength is the bedrock of a brighter future for our children. By caring for ourselves, we empower the next generation to thrive. Together, let's build a legacy of resilience and hope. Your journey matters. Embrace it. And indeed, the sacred strength of women is a profound force. With unwavering love and nurturing wisdom, we have the ability to inspire, uplift, and shape the future hearts of our children. This power, rooted in compassion and resilience, is a beacon of hope that lights the way for generations to come. Let us unite to honor the beauty of motherhood, champion the grace of our journey, and inspire those who follow. A mother's love and wisdom empower our children to flourish, instilling in them the courage to reach their full potential. Motherhood. Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
So you were just listening to President Trump and the First Lady holding a pseudo Mother's Day celebration there, celebrating Gold Star families and Gold Star mothers. Here at the bottom of your screen, you see a live look at the Vatican. Let's take that full, guys. White smoke has billowed from up above the Sistine Chapel, marking the selection of a new pope. At this particular point, we don't know exactly who that person is, but the introduction, we are told, will happen here in short order. Right now, the 1.4 billion Catholics around the world have been applauding and watching all of this. About 15 minutes ago, in fact, the white smoke began to billow from over the chimney there above the Sistine Chapel, marking the selection of the 267th Pope. The crowd gathered in St. Peter's Square cheered, of course, as you can imagine, as that smoke rose into the air. You can see all of the people there in St. Peter's Square waiting to meet and see who this new Pope is. At this point, as I explained earlier, no word who the selection is. An announcement is expected imminently, though. The new Pope will then make his first appearance when he makes his way to the balcony over St. Peter's Square and waves at the adoring crowds underneath. He'll be introduced by the historic phrase, Habemus Papum, which of course translates into, we have a Pope. You can see the many flags from around the world. There's a Mexican flag, Italian flag. I see a Colombian flag there. I think I even saw a South Korean flag and a Brazilian flag being waved there in the distance. Even Costa Rica, I believe I saw there in the distance. And we're told that the 133 electors, those cardinals who were chosen to elect this new pope, have come from 70 countries. It is said to be the most geographically diverse papal conclave in history, with cardinals from some 70 countries coming together to select the new pope. And again, we are now simply waiting for this new pope, whoever he is, to be introduced to the public there in St. Peter's Basilica, St. Peter's Square. He will come out on the balcony and wave to the crowds, and then we will know who that new pope is. We, of course, will be following this for you here on Real America's Voice. Okay, it looks like there's a band coming out. So again, the pomp and circumstance going on there as we now wait for the new pope to come out. You can see the guards there as well, the Vatican guards in their ceremonial gear. They also typically, if you've been to the Vatican, you know this, they typically are posted up around the Vatican as security for the Pope and for the other cardinals and clergymen who come there to the Vatican. And now they are marching out following the band there. So one has to imagine that we are closer now to finding out who the next Pope is going to be. The Pope, of course, is probably being fitted for his new robe, which he'll be fitted with and outfitted with, and then he will make his way to the balcony to introduce himself and to announce himself to the world. So we'll continue to follow all of this. Hopefully this will all happen in short order, and we will take you there live as the new Pope is introduced. In the meantime, the Trump administration has reached its first post-tariff trade deal. It is with the United Kingdom. In fact, President Trump describes the agreement as full and comprehensive. He's also foreshadowing what's to come, saying that many other deals, which are in serious stages of negotiations, are to follow. Today's deal actually sets the stage for Saturday's talks in Geneva, Switzerland, between the United States and Chinese trade delegations.
I would like to see China opened. You know, one of the big things here is, and nobody would know this, but the UK was largely closed. It was very much closed to trade, and now it's opened. And a lot of the financial reporters are very happy about that because so much, I listened to them. I hope they get countries opened up. And then you compete on a fair basis, but you can't compete when you're not allowed to go there. China would be the number one example of that. You know, it's very closed.
Those remarks happening in the Oval Office earlier this morning. Right now, China is not under a 90-day reprieve from President Trump's major reciprocal tariffs. He says the 145% tariffs on Chinese imports to the United States can't get much higher. Well, the fight over illegal immigration in sanctuary states/cities is intensifying. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem taking her concerns right into Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's backyard during a news conference with angel families outside the governor's mansion there in Springfield, Illinois.
Since 2017, Illinois has been a sanctuary state. The results have been absolutely disastrous for people who live here. In 2020, Governor Pritzker expanded access to taxpayer-funded free health care for illegal aliens. It has cost the citizens of Illinois $1.6 billion. He has been incentivizing illegals to come here and to live in this state.
Secretary Noem calling out the state's sanctuary policies, which she says undermine the rule of law and endanger Americans. All right, let's get you back to the Vatican as the situation there is continuing to play out. You can see the pomp and circumstance there, the Vatican Guard making its way out onto St. Peter's Square as an adoring public wait to hear and see who the next pope is. The white smoke is billowed out from over the Sistine Chapel, meaning that a new pope has been elected. At this moment, we are simply waiting for him to announce himself to the rest of the world. We'll cover it here for you on Real America's Voice. For now, let's get you back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Hardest working radio show in the business. The Charlie Kirk Show.
Okay, everybody, we have live coverage. Blake is here, our resident Catholic. We're also live here in the Bitcoin.com studio. Look at this, live from, is that St. Peter's Square, right?
Yes.
So it's the square and the Basilica.
St. Peter's Square,
right?
outside St. Peter's Basilica.
So a lot of people are very interested in this. We're going to go all live coverage of the Pope. But it's actually a very opportune time that if you guys want to learn more about ancient Christianity, which is a perfect connection actually here, there's a Hillsdale online course about ancient Christianity. I've taken it. It's wonderful. Tells you about all the councils, about the history of the Catholic Church. What a beautiful harmony that is. It's charlieforhillsdale.com. That's charlieforhillsdale.com. As we are here covering live the selection of a new pope. And this matters for all of humanity. This is a big selection. Blake is going to go through actually some of the candidates of who it could potentially be and whether it's good news or not so good news. But if you want to learn more about it, go to charlieforhillsdale.com. That is charlieforhillsdale.com. They have the Ancient Christianity course. They also have a lot on the book of Exodus, on the David story, on the Genesis story, and more. Hillsdale is a Christian school. So go to charlieforhillsdale.com. That's charlieforhillsdale.com. Okay, John Yep will be coming shortly from Rome. Let's keep that. That's perfect how you guys have that configured. So please, the emphasis should be on the live feed there. And by the way, those of you watching, this is the best coverage that you guys are going to get right here as we cover this here. So, okay, Blake, what candidates can we possibly expect?
All right, yeah, so could be one of these guys in a matter of minutes. I think they say, I think I saw usually around an hour until they come out, but it could be earlier. So a lot of names get thrown around, and we could, all predictions wrong or your money back. There have been totally shocking candidates like John Paul II. Francis himself was a very long shot candidate who was seen as a guy kind of past his time already. But some names that get thrown around. One I know a lot of people in America are fans of is Robert Serra. He's an African bishop and cardinal. Objectively, he's probably less likely. He's older. He's popular in America because he's very traditional, very conservative, and there are cardinals who are not that way, and you need 2/3 to get over the hump. So that kind of is a limiting factor on having a very progressive pope or a very traditional conservative pope. You kind of end up in the middle because you need 2/3 of the vote. Probably the most boring pick would be if we got Cardinal Parolin, Pietro Parolin. He is the Vatican's Secretary of State. So he
is a cardinal.
He is a cardinal. They're all cardinals. You don't need to elect a cardinal.
So you could be pope.
I could be elected pope. I mean, in theory, as you know, Trump could be elected.
Has there ever been a non-cardinal elected pope?
Yeah. So the office of cardinal didn't always exist. There have been non-priests elected pope. There have been cases where elected and then consecrated a priest and Bishop of Rome all on the same day. Those were not good times for the papacy overall. That was during the period I told you about where it was very dicey in the Dark Ages. But it doesn't have to be a cardinal. But 99.99999% chance it's going to be
any
one of those
baptized
guys.
Male can become pope. I think. Can I say something that's a little politically incorrect? In a world where everything is about gender equity and hyper-feminization, I think it's kind of awesome that there's a men's-only club selecting someone.
Yeah, a bunch of single men picking a...
That is also true.
Picking a boss of their boys' club.
Yeah, but I do think that it's they don't care if everyone's calling where's your feminine representation? Sorry, we don't change.
Yeah.
I think that's so admirable when we have these other Christian churches where well, I must have a female pastor. Actually, no, you don't.
Yeah. So if you want to know a pope we probably don't want to see, if you want to groan as soon as this person comes out, Cardinal Zuppi, something like that.
Giuseppe?
It's just Zuppi is how you say it. He is one of the contenders. He's the Archbishop of Bologna. He's kind of seen as very aligned with Francis, so that would be one reason he might get picked. Most of the cardinals were picked by Francis. He might have even said, I like this guy privately, and given some endorsement to him. We haven't heard anything to that effect, but it's always possible that occurs. He's frankly pretty progressive. He has, talked about how it's Europe's duty to take migrants from all the rest of the world. He's certainly said a lot of stuff we would dislike, and he would be considered one of the more liberal candidates. That doesn't necessarily mean he would throw out tons of other doctrines, but he could kind of be like Francis in terms of saying a lot of things that make people groan overall. Another name you've heard a lot of is Cardinal Tagle, I think is how you say it. He's the Filipino one. Obviously, the big story there would be, we had our first non-European pope in over 1,000 years. With Francis, but he was still, European ethnically. He was still Italian ethnically, but just from Argentina. Tagle is from the Philippines. He would be the first Asian. He would be the first East Asian pope in any capacity. The first Asian pope really since the Roman Empire. That would obviously be a big change. I think he's seen again as generally on the more progressive wing. He is kind of an Asian Francis type. The line they use is he focuses on pastoral stuff. So we have to reach the people on their terms. And that's kind of a way that they often sneak in a lot of liberal stuff people don't care about. On the more conservative wing, the best name candidate is obviously Cardinal Pizzaballa. He is the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem. So he's Italian, but he's in the Holy Land. He's generally seen as a little bit more on the conservative wing. I hear about him occasionally because my parents are members of Knights and Dames of the Holy Sepulchre, which is a Catholic organization that goes back to the Crusades. And I think he's technically their senior-most cleric. On the very conservative end, there's Cardinal Erdo of Hungary. He's often seen as very conservative. I would again say it's pretty unlikely we would get someone. We're not probably going to get someone that we're dreaming of here because you're working with the materials that you have. That said, Catholics believe it's all guided by the Holy Spirit. So maybe the Holy Spirit will act on them in a positive direction.
So what is the timeline here? Let's keep the procession going, please, guys, on the screen. So momentarily, the Pope is going to pick a new name. Mm-hmm. So what is the process of that? And it has to be a saint, right?
No, the Pope can pick whatever name he wants.
Really?
It's just a tradition. He doesn't have to do it.
Doesn't have to pick a new name.
There have been popes who didn't do it.
Okay. Francis did, obviously.
Francis picked a saint's name, and he picked a new name. Usually, they often pick someone.
They almost always pick a new name, though.
No, they always pick a new name for themselves.
That's what I'm saying.
Usually, they pick one that's been used a lot, Benedict the 16th. We've had a more recent run of them picking new ones. John Paul II. So John Paul I immediately preceded him and died after only a month. And so John Paul II basically said, in tribute to our Pope who was taken too soon, I will take the same name. John Paul, that was a new name, but the previous popes were John and Paul, and so he was combining them. But beyond that, you usually get a lot of repeat ones. We had it was Pope Pius over and over and over again throughout the 1800s and early 1900s. So I think the most recent was Pius XII, but almost all of those were in the past 200, 300 years. Yeah, but they don't have to. He could come out and just say I'm getting rid of that tradition. But it's a 2,000-year tradition at this point, so you're likely to see it again.
All right, so we have a monster panel of Catholics, and I'm the only evangelical here, for the record. And I love Catholics. I love them. Okay, so here we have Lila, Rose, we have, John Yep, and then we have Jack Posobiec. Let me first say, Lila, congratulations to you, new Pope. What is your thoughts here?
I'm super excited. This is like a birthday and Disneyland and all Christmas all in one day. So we're super pumped. And, obviously we don't know who the Pope is yet. We're going to probably know in maybe half an hour. Usually you learn within the hour after the white smoke. But I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for God's providence. God is good.
Amen. All the time. Okay, so we have Jack Posobiec from Rome. We're going to bounce around with the whole panel here. I don't know how we're going to do this technically, but I will buy you all lunch. How does that sound, guys? Because this is not going to be easy. Jack, do we have Jack? Oh, we have John Yep. I'm sorry. We have John Yep from Rome. John, congratulations. What's the vibe on the ground right now in Rome?
The vibe is insane here. There was a mass crowd that just ran to the square, gently pushing and shoving, I might add, but people were respectful, aware of the moment. Charlie, I heard that you're sponsoring free lunches for all Catholics. That's wonderful of you. We're so grateful.
Yes.
Just from a spiritual sense, I do think, people in the square, whether you're Catholic, Christian, whatever, there's a certain sense of the return of the Father, right? This representative. Catholics see him in that way, imperfect though he might be. And we're waiting for that man, that anticipation to come out, to stand on that loggia, and to give us his paternal fatherly blessing. Insane reality up here, Charlie. I ran across the square and just my hands are shaking with excitement. I got to admit.
Praise the Lord. And so we were talking about the name. So what name is actually going to be selected and what name is going to be chosen, right? And I think Jack Posobiec is also going to join us. I want to cover that, but really quick, about a minute and a half remaining. Lila, what would you like to see this Pope do in regards to the fight for life, the sanctity of the unborn? Lila, please comment on that. Let's go full screen with all of the proceedings at the Basilica.
Well, listen, all of the last century of popes, because abortion has really been this modern Holocaust. We've lost now 1.5 billion babies to abortion globally in just the last 2 decades. So this is the modern day Holocaust, the killing of the unborn. And every single pope we've had in this century, in the last century, has been so outspoken for life, because this is a core Christian teaching. This is, I'm getting an announcement here. Pope Francis was extremely passionately pro-life. John Paul II, Benedict were all passionately pro-life. So I'm confident the next pope will, of course, be passionately pro-life. The gates of hell do not prevail against the church, so they're going to be true blue on the faith and moral teachings of the church. So I hope that we'll, hear from him, and I hope people will pay attention. I think that's the key thing. I'm not worried about the pope not being pro-life. The pope's going to be pro-life. The question is, will people listen to the prophetic words of the Holy Father? Will people pay attention? And I'm very happy to see the whole world paying attention right now with excitement about who's going to be elected to be this father, really, for people of faith. I mean, he is, of course, the Pope for the Catholic Church, but I think Christians of all backgrounds look to the moral clarity of the Holy Father. So no matter who it is, we're going to have a pro-life Pope, and it's just a question of his different personality, his different approach. But either way, God's got it, and it's going to be great.
So I love that. Thank you, Lila. And I want to throw back to John for a second here. We're going to go through the ads, guys. We can make them good at another time. John, really quick, what is the consensus on the ground? What is the kind of bring us into the environment on the street in Rome here?
In many ways, unexpected. This is a very early decision. I mean, we thought maybe Friday. So the fact that there's a decision this quick, it can mean that, one of the front runners who we were expecting got the number of votes. So, we're all here in anticipation, waiting. Absolutely packed crowd. People are singing, waving flags. There's bands playing. If you look around, just around me, there's little perches of all the different news outlets on rooftops, just covering this moment really for the world. So, the blessing that he will give, that you see there, the Loggia, it's Urbi et Orbi. That's a Latin for to the city, to the world. He will give that, wishing, the Spirit of Christ upon all of humanity. So just a powerful moment to be here. And, it's wild, Charlie, I got to admit.
Okay, we're actually going to go through the break, so we have to just kind of take a pause, and I'm going to ask Blake a question about some of also what we're watching. Explain all these outfits. What is all this? I mean it, because people are saying, what on earth is that? There is a new pope. We pray it is a solidly conservative one. Stay right there. Back in about 10 seconds. We're going to go straight to the breaks. Okay, Blake. So, Blake here, we got all Catholics. What am I looking at with all the high-stepping, kind of medieval-looking outfits? What does that have to do with...
They're not medieval-looking. They are literally medieval.
I know, but what is that? I mean, I'm not being sarcastic. I wonder, what does that have to do with Catholicism? What is the connection?
Well, Catholicism is an old faith. It's very much rooted in tradition. When we've talked about religion, I've told you the big thing with Catholicism that kind of sets it apart from Protestantism. You've heard of sola scriptura, which is...
Yes, I'm very familiar
Protestants
with that.
believe, scripture alone. Catholics believe that there is tradition as something in addition to Scripture,
Correct.
that the practices of the early church guide us. And, okay, outfits are not part of that. There's no doctrinal reason you need to do that, but it's an old institution. It draws a lot of its legitimacy from being old, from being continuous, from having connections to the past. And one of the ways that manifests is you have... these outfits that they've been sporting since the Renaissance. One of the funniest ones you can see is, you should look up what the Swiss Guards wear. The Swiss Guard outfits are quite colorful. They were literally, I'm not making this up, they were designed by Michelangelo. That one, Sistine Chapel ceiling, statue of David. He also designed those outfits. Probably not on par with his other other artistic achievements, but they have their place. And so that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the visual element of the Catholic Church as this very old institution. And, the way conclaves are done is very much the way conclaves have been done for hundreds of years, except for the smoke thing, actually. The smoke thing's only about 100 years old.
Only 100? Is that right?
Yeah.
I thought that would be like...
That was a 20th century innovation.
John, come on in.
Believe, like Blake said, Benedict XV in the early 1900s is the first one that used white smoke. However, the tradition of actually using smoke signals, I do believe, Blake, correct me, that does go back to roughly 1325. So that's when the Pope at the time basically wanted to rein in everyone. Why was the first place? He was concerned of having undue influences from outside, whether it be superpowers or you name it. So he gathered, sequestered the cardinals for the first time in a key room, a conclave, so that they could prayerfully make a decision. And that's the birth of the smoke signal. But the white smoke was first used in the early 1900s. 1900s, yeah.
So we're waiting with eager anticipation here. Lila, I might have to... Actually, I'm going to ask you this question in about 20 seconds because we have to welcome back our radio audience. From a father that you and I both trust, John, Father Klein in Scottsdale, he texted me, he said, we're praying for Pizza Bala. So did you mention
yes,
that
I
name,
mentioned
right?
he's would be one of the better options, I would think, of the contenders.
If that's what Father Klein wants, that's definitely what I trust. So
it's definitely the best name.
I'm going to agree with you that one, Charlie.
I'm a fan. I co-sign that. But here's the good news, guys. Again, no matter who ends up being the Pope, it doesn't change the moral teaching of the church. It doesn't change the doctrine of the faith. It doesn't change any of that. And I think we can tend to put political labels.
For Pope Benedict, I was...
Sorry, we got cut off. Lila, please keep talking and try to tie this with the breaking news story that you also have. And I might have to cut you off at any time.
I know we have a breaking news story from yesterday, but really quick on the Pope. You know, they might have conservative or liberal. We might put those titles on the Pope, but at the end of the day, the Pope is true blue a Christian, and so you might look at him through a certain lens of American politics or European politics, but he's going to stand for the moral teachings of the Christian faith, and that's what his job is, to stand up for Jesus Christ, even when it's politically popular or not. I'll speak to it if you want, Charlie. Should we talk about it?
Connect it with what we're talking about here and how the church needs to speak out against it, what you're covering.
Sure. So Live Action, the pro-life group that I lead, just launched a new investigative report yesterday. Pro-life is the biggest issue, the biggest cultural issue, I would argue, for any of us to be concerned with as Christians. It's the killing of our unborn brothers and sisters, but the biggest abortion chain is Planned Parenthood, and they are not just killing 1,000 babies a day in the United States, they're also giving cross-sex hormones to 16-year-olds. Our investigation shows that 16-year-olds call up Planned Parenthood, and they just prescribe testosterone to young girls, progesterone to boys, and there's no question about the mental health issues that they might face. There's no actual counseling appointment, none of that. So long story short, Planned Parenthood is receiving $700 million in taxpayer funds. That needs to be cut. Charlie, I know you've been outspoken on this, and the Holy Father is very outspoken on abortion. You know, Pope Francis called abortion like it was hiring a hitman. That's how bad abortion was. So I think no matter who the Holy Father is, he's going to be very pro-life, and we have our work to do cut out for us in the United States. We got to defund Planned Parenthood. We're allowing the funding of this big abortion chain that's also transing the youth, and it's completely atrocious.
So I want to now get John in here. I think we're also going to get Jack Posobiec here. The candidates being selected, what is happening right now at this moment? Are all the cardinals basically in a moment of celebration? Is that fair to say? What exactly is happening right now, and then what can we expect imminently?
Well, you see the cardinals from the picture. Some of them are already gathered in the square. I also just ran into one on the way up the elevator, which means they have had some time now to exit the Sistine Chapel, get into position or with the crowd, which of course means that the new Holy Father is probably already in the Room of Tears, so to speak. That's the chamber that's adjacent to the Sistine Chapel. It's called the Room of Tears because that's where popes in the past, who once they've been chosen, officially accept. And yes, they do shed some tears. Why? Because they're acutely aware they're basically receiving a cross, which, you know, they'll carry pretty much until they die. So this is the new pope is in there. He's changed it from the red to the white. He's already selected his name because he had to tell the cardinals. So the cardinals do know who it is, of course, and the name. And he will be coming out on the square. And you're going to have the archdeacon, a cardinal, who will say those famous words, Gaudio Magno, Annuncio Vobis. With great joy, I announce to you the name of the new pope, right? So that's what's happening. So I would expect, honestly, Charlie, you're going to see the new pope maybe within 15 minutes up there in the loggia.
Okay, very good. So, Lila, I know you have to dash here in just a second. Please plug again the great work you're doing and your final sign-off here for everyone watching.
Thank you. Super pumped for the Pope. He's going to be pro-life no matter who he is, so I'm not worried about that. And where that's the confidence we have as Catholics is that this Holy Father is going to be true north on moral teachings and the theological foundations of our Christian faith. And that's the gift that we have in a Holy Father who, by the Holy Spirit's power, not his own power, by the Holy Spirit's power, is going to guide the church. And that's why the Catholic Church has never changed its teachings on things like abortion, on marriage, on these core theological doctrines, the Trinity, the divinity of Christ. These are teachings that have lasted 2,000 years. Check out the work of Live Action. We are launching new investigative reports exposing the abortion industry. That's our job as Christians, to stand up and speak out for the most vulnerable. And we urge President Trump, who has been outspoken against the transgender agenda, to defund Planned Parenthood because they're transing young people. Our investigation exposed that, and they're killing babies in the womb, over 1,000 of them a day. So this is a time for action, both for Christians to pray for our new Holy Father, and I believe for people of faith to call for the administration to defund Planned Parenthood.
We should absolutely defund Planned Parenthood. I totally agree. Lila, thank you. John, stay there. We're going to try to get Jack in, but he's having Wi-Fi connection issues. All of you watching right now, we're about to witness history together. You only get a new pope every 7 to 15 years on average. Mm-hmm. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And
we'll only see a few of these.
When was the last time? When was Francis elected?
2013.
Wow. 12 years. It's amazing. We're going to go through the breaks, so stay here. Live coverage of the selection of a new pope. Okay, we are here with live coverage, and we are seeing the Sistine Chapel. Let's make that go full screen here. So, Blake, I would venture a guess that a majority of this audience is actually not Catholic. This is of great profundity. This is 264 popes, I think they're saying. Mm-hmm. And it is kind of a rapid conclusion to the conclave. So this is all speculation. But when we have a shorter conclave, what correlation does that usually give us, or is there no such correlation?
So definitely, as we like to do now, we check the odds, and of course there was betting odds.
Is there betting odds?
Yeah, there were betting odds on the Pope.
You're kidding me.
What has happened is with the fast conclave, the odds that it was Cardinal Parolin, I don't know how you say these things, that went up. As I told you, he's kind of the he's like the boring pick. He would be the sort of let's not shake anything up too much choice, and it's very possible you got that if you got a pick on this is probably, I think, only the fourth ballot, so you probably didn't have any dramatic swerves to a dark horse candidate out of nowhere. If you're only going 3 or 4 ballots, it might have been 1 or 2 to shake out very unlikely contenders, and then we have 2/3, there we go. Of course, this could all be proven wrong in a matter of minutes, so but that is, if you're getting one out very quickly, it's probably they were able to pretty quickly have the different wings of the church agree on some sort of, sometimes they'll say compromise pick or just consensus pick, or a choice who's not going to rock the boat too much in one direction or the other.
John, what comment do you have on this? And can you also speak to the international aspect here? I'm seeing flags from all over the planet. Talk about how there are people from all over the world that are gathering at St. Peter's Basilica and Square.
There are, and this kind of builds on Lila's point. I mean, yes, on the fundamental issues of faith and morality, the Pope's not going to err. But the reality is the following. We did have a Pope who caused scandal to the last pontificate, 100%. So why am I saying that now? Because we have a duty like St. Paul in the book of Galatians. He addressed Peter to his face when Peter, on a prudential issue, was going against ultimately what the Lord wanted. And Paul stood up to him. And that's the role. So it's not a slam dunk like we're going to get this amazing all-star representative of the Lord Jesus on that loggia. It could be quite the opposite. I'm telling you right now. Because, newsflash, there are serious worldly influences who are trying to make their presence felt in this conclave. You have, first of all, you have President Macron, who was here for the funeral of Pope Francis. He met up with 5 different French cardinals, and he pretty much got his hand slapped. It says, like, back off, like stop, because he had his pick in mind. Then you have the Chinese Communist Party. They have a fantastic deal going on right now with the Vatican, where the Vatican gave them, the ability to choose bishops. There was probably some cash flow between the two entities. So you got to believe it that the CCP has their pick. So this is not a slam dunk. And, whoever that man is, because of the short bandwidth, like you said, I do expect one of the front runners who we expected to be elected might show up there. So it's some very interesting times, we're going to find out the next kind of like you just said, 7 to 10 years of a plan or program for the Church of Evangelization through the person that they choose.
Okay, so Blake, what are you seeing? What chatter here? I mean, look, there's exuberation that we have a new pope. My grandmother was a very devout Catholic, and in fact, so much so that I grew up looking at pictures of John Paul II.
There'll be new pictures now.
And exactly, she would watch EWTN all the time. And so I have great reverence for Catholics. And so actually, let's play this. Let's play cut 421. This is Jack Posobiec live from St. Peter's Square. Let's play cut 421.
All right, folks, we're here. White smoke just went up. St. Peter's Square, St. Peter's Basilica, the dome, designed and built by Michelangelo himself, the head of the Catholic Church, as the faithful await to find the name of the next Vicar of Christ, the next descendant, successor of St. Peter, the next Pope. Very soon.
So, the crowd is growing dramatically now. It is just really something. John, do you want to chime in there?
Yeah. So, I mean, you're looking, squares completely packed. Now, what you can see on camera is the Via Conciliazione, which is the main street that goes from St. Peter's all the way down to the Tiber River. That street was actually put in there by President Mussolini in 1929 as a gift to the Vatican to kind of create some grandeur and a view and et cetera. Well, that street is completely packed all the way down to the Tiber River. So you're looking at probably nearing 100,000 people, and it's just growing. The entire city of Rome just descended upon this. I was here, Charlie, in 2013. And by the way, I got my grandma too. May she rest in peace. She was also an aficionado of EWTN. So we share that. We share that in common, Charlie. But in 2013, I was here for Pope Francis's election, and we remember I was a seminarian back then, so I was wearing black and white, and I ran down 2 miles, hitchhiked part of the way from a kind Italian signorita, and she brought me there, and we were there, and I'll never forget the moment when Pope Francis did come out, and it's probably one of the rare moments in your life where you're going to have the ability. Charlie, crowds, you see crowds all the time. Imagine a Trump rally where you can get every single person in that room to be dead on quiet. Okay. Well, Pope Francis did that. He, for 90,000 people, please be quiet and join me in prayer. And to be there where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in their midst. That's what's going to happen, people, just in a few minutes. These people are gathered here in the name of Jesus, so, and we're going to have that moment of prayer. And if you're watching online, you're sharing it to some degree. So you see the genuine excitement. Okay. There's because I do think it's not just fanfare and fluff and like you're seeing a rock star. There's truly a spiritual element going on here. Those people are standing precisely where St. Peter himself was martyred in 67 AD. That is the man that Jesus Christ called on the Sea of Galilee. He was martyred in that square, and he's buried now underneath the basilica. So people are standing on the holy ground of martyrs as we wait for this person who represents Christ here on earth for us to show up.
Blake, do you want to comment on that? We got Jack, looks like. Oh, my goodness. Jack is coming in also from Rome. Who's got better coverage than us? No one.
We're in pretty good shape.
Blake, you're going to comment on something?
Oh, no.
Charlie, okay. I'm not going to tell you what network I stole by sharing this part of the rooftop, so we'll leave that off camera. But let me just tell you, it's probably one of the best spots around. So the best for the Charlie Kirk Show.
Jack, are you here? Can you hear us? I don't know, Jack.
Yeah, Charlie, I can hear you guys fine. And actually, I've just stepped out from St. Peter's Square is directly behind me. That's the only place I could find any Wi-Fi connection. But yeah, I'm hearing you fine. I hope you guys can hear me fine. It is absolute pandemonium as Catholics are ecstatic, coming out, waiting. The white smoke went up just about 45 minutes ago, give or take, and the square is flooded. We're going to see at least 60,000 people here. Barricades have come down. The Carbonari, the Italian police, the Vatican police, they're just letting people in. My brother Kevin is actually, they made a big mistake and they gave him a press pass. So Kevin is actually up on the roof of the Vatican columns right now getting footage. He doesn't have signal, but we're going to have that footage as soon as possible. He doesn't have Wi-Fi, so we're going to have that footage as soon as possible. And we are all waiting for the announcement of the next pope. We'll be walking out of that balcony very, very soon.
So Jack, just as a Catholic, what has this meant? Is this your first conclave, Jack, or is this? Have you been to one prior?
My first conclave.
Wow, what has this meant for you?
This is my very first conclave.
Kind of, what has this experience been? I mean, here you get to go to an inauguration and a conclave in the same year within a couple months. How has that been for you, Jack?
You know, Charlie, one thing I'm definitely guilty of, and I suppose I'll have to bring up my next confession, is that I'm always kind of been, focused on the next mission. And, it's interesting you ask me a question like that, because something my wife brings up often. She said, you really need to take time to step back and think about it. And I'll just say, having grown up as a kid in the Philadelphia Archdiocese, working class area, just surreal, absolutely surreal. The Pope was something that, you thought about. John Paul II was a Pope.
Hold that thought one second. One second. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Okay, we are here live covering the selection of a new pope. We have two amazing young Catholic men live from Rome. Jack, you were continuing. Please tell us more.
Well, Charlie, thanks so much. And I was just saying, as a kid to grow up in the Philadelphia Archdiocese, John Paul II was the Pope. But, the Pope really only comes to America very rarely, a couple of times during a papacy, usually like literally one or two when I say a couple. So the thought that I would actually be in Rome, walking the streets of the Holy City, walking through St. Peter's Square like this, it's absolutely surreal. It's something that, I don't know. I think of my mom, I guess, trying to get me out of bed early on a Sunday morning and saying, come on, we got to get to Mass. We got to get dressed up. We have to be there. Never thought in a million years that I'd be part of something like this, which is absolute history and is really going to set the stage for the trajectory, not just for Catholics, but for Western civilization writ large. Absolutely.
Yeah, so Charlie just stepped out for a second here. We could be getting the Pope literally any second at this point. They said about an hour. It has been about an hour now, and so could be happening at any time. Just for fun, Jack, what name are you hoping that the new Pope will take?
Well, the name he'll take. Oh gosh, I'd love to see another Pope Pius, John Paul III. That'd be kind of interesting, following in the footsteps of John Paul II. It's been a while since we've had a Linus. I've always actually been a fan of Pope Linus, the second Pope, who doesn't usually get as much billing, of course, as some of the others. But I've always been a real student of his papacy. We've even had a Pope Valentine, so we could have a Pope Valentine II. But yeah, I think personally, I'd love to see another Pope Pius XIII, I believe, would be the next one. And I think that would be just a way to continue the traditional line within the church, as opposed to a Pope that would be going more in the vein of Francis, the Jesuit modernist line. And a lot of people are saying, Blake, that because the Pope was chosen on this fourth ballot very early, so you've had not even just 24 hours of the conclave from when it began till now, 20 voting, Bergoglio, when he was cardinal, was chosen on the 5th ballot. So also on day 2, like we're seeing right now. So there's a lot of people saying, is it possible that we did get a progressive continuation of Francis? Or is it possible that we found someone who is more of a bridge between the two, bridge between the progressives and the traditionalists, someone who's willing to actually balance out those two? Because while the modernists have made great progress in their eyes, it's really been the traditionalists that have seen a huge surge across Europe and North America, with people flooding into the Latin Mass. And of course, Pope Francis was not so keen to some elements of the Latin Mass. So this, of course, was in the vein of Pope Benedict, who also really only passed away a couple of years ago. So we've had quite a few popes in just the last 5 years.
So, John, same question to you. What would you say to the question that Blake posed?
I got a crazy proposal. You remember the 21 Coptic Christians who had their necks slit and offered their lives for Christ? We just celebrated with 10th year anniversary. How about the new Pope choose one of the names of those martyrs? Why? To bring it home that office, that role of the Holy Father, that is not some political position. They are there to witness to Christ, and if need be, shed their blood. That needs to be brought back to the church, to church leaders across the world of all faiths. We've lost that. We've gotten way too comfortable across the spectrum. Until you see men who are willing to just do like what Peter did, shed his blood for the Lord, we're not going to see massive conversions. And we need that today in this world.
Can you speak, John, about how the church and the Pope needs to not just speak out against the cultural degeneracy and wokeism and all that stuff, but also about Islam? It seems as if there's been a little bit of silence, from my liking, from the Vatican on the rise of Mohammedanism throughout Europe. Your thoughts, John Yep?
We're right there with you, Charlie. You had a great segment the other day talking about Islam taking over parts of Texas.
That's right.
They are a religion. Let's be honest. You got to go by the book. Yes, the principle, not every Muslim is bad. There's some very quote unquote virtuous Muslims. We get that 100%. But in terms of its philosophy, look, the Quran, it is a quasi religion, if you can call it that, of warfare, of conquest, and it does not sync with human nature. Okay, that's one of the defining characteristics of what a religion is. It must sync with the natural law. That's why Christianity, Judaism, they fit so well with what America is. So when Sharia law, for instance, that diminishes human nature and the dignity of man and woman. So it's a serious issue. The longer we try to avoid it, the longer a bigger problem we're gonna have. But I mean, Charlie, step back too. We're looking at this question of Islam in a 25-year little time frame. Let's go back to the first 1,500 years since Islam began. Look at what Christians have done across Europe. Jackson, expert at this. 1683, the Battle of Vienna. Christians rose. I hear applause. What's going on, Charlie?
Let's cut live. Let's just cut live to the feed and let it speak for itself. Okay, let's do that, and you're about to see history.
Also present at this moment to see the historic aspect of this. It's really beautiful.
And we see the internationality, the universality of the Catholic Church. It's a global reality, and we see that in the crowds there in the square.
And this we also saw during the funeral of Pope Francis. So many people.
Okay, there's movement. Okay.
Yes.
Here we go.
The white curtains are behind the glass door. Now the doors are being opened.
We see first.
Here we are.
The Proto-Deacon.
And
he's smiling.
He's smiling. He will give us the announcement. Here we are.
Annuncio vobis gaudium magnum. Habemus papam. Eminentissimum ac reverendissimum Dominum. Dominum Robertum Franciscum, Sancte Romane Ecclesiae, Cardinalem Prevost. Qui sibi nomen imposuit Leonem decimum quartum.
So the Pope is Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, who's taken the name of Leo XIV, Pope Leo XIV. Cardinal Prevost is an American, and he spent most of his ministry in Latin America, in Peru, and also in Paraguay. And he's an Augustinian father. He was the provincial in Latin America, and then became the Bishop of Chiclayo in Peru. And he then is also he became the Superior General of the Augustinian Fathers as well. He's now he's been the prefect of.
That is the first American Pope. Is that right?
If we heard that correctly,
Robert Francis Prevost. Pope Leo the 14th. John, that is the first ever American Pope. John, this was not on anyone's card. John, please.
So, sort of. This guy came in the running the last minute. Now, this, to be quite frank, okay, roughly 3 days ago, Charlie, in a span of roughly 36 hours, every single major what you and I would call liberal-leaning outlet ran PR stories in favor of this guy. That includes the New York Times. I think the Guardian had an article, and this guy, a National Catholic Reporter, which is like the anti-Catholic paper. Okay, so all these papers all of a sudden did this huge ground support for Robert Prevost. Okay, so what does that? I mean, where does that tell you about what kind of man this is? I mean, time will tell. I self-admittedly do not know him well. I have heard concerns about him that he leans in the direction of Francis. But, you know, let's give this guy, of course, the benefit of the doubt. And if he hasn't even come on the logia yet, let's just see, you know, who he is and how he will govern the church in this next time ahead. But just that is an interesting biographical fact that he shot to the head of everyone's thoughts and minds about 3 days ago.
1 second. First American Pope. Wow. Okay, well, the first American Pope. Keep talking, John. He seems to be, some people say he's a centrist, blending progressivism with traditional doctrine. Born in Chicago, so I have that in common. So what do we think here, John? Why do you think he was selected?
Okay, so there's the U.S. element. That's right. I mean, he's lived all around, born in the best city in the world, Chicago, where I'm also from, Charlie. You know, there's American element here, too. And let me tell you why that might be. Again, like we've said before, traditionally almost never does a conclave choose a pope from the world's reigning superpower, just for prudential reasons. But there's a pragmatic reality going on here. The Vatican is almost bankrupt, right? People stopped giving to the Vatican the last 12 years. And honestly, it was well-deserved. I mean, for instance, we had money that we had given as Catholics across the world to the Peter's Pence collection. Pope Francis, in his wisdom, decided to give $500,000 to the immigrant migration vans that were coming across to our border. So Americans were rightly upset. Now, when you piss off Americans, considering that we fund, you know, I'm just taking a ballpark guess, at least 50% of the Vatican. Okay, well, that's not a good business model. So, you know, this week coincided with what's called America Week, when a lot of the bigger name Catholic American philanthropists gather in Rome once a year, and they kind of discuss where they want to give their money, right? Which is a great thing. Well, I know that they made their presence felt, saying, you know, we definitely want a pope who's going to bring things back. So who knows? That might be a contributing factor that the conclave knew that it had to get the good graces of the American lady back there to help with their financial situation, because obviously they do some good work. The Vatican does there, and that with the works of charity. So that might be an interesting angle about why. There you go. You got the flag in the square. You got the red, white, and blue flying proud there. So it's interesting, Charlie. Time will tell about where Pope Prevost, or whatever the name, I missed the name, or Leo XIV, how Pope Leo XIV will conduct his affairs.
Do we still have, so Blake, this is a shock, first ever American Pope.
I was literally yesterday, I was telling one of the staffers, I was like, okay, there's various contenders. They'll probably never pick an American as Pope. And I got owned very badly. I did fortunately say all predictions wrong or your money back, and you get total surprise ones. And this is definitely, like he said, there was some coverage of him as a potential pope, but very much second, third tier even of the potential candidates. There will be a lot of efforts to define him. I suspect this can go in directions people don't expect very quickly, so I don't want to assume anything. He might be, trying to see here, he might be the first August Order of St. Augustine. You were asking me about orders of priests just the other day. And I think he might be the first pope from that order. He was the prior of them, but oh man, this is big. I
had a weird feeling. I was like, what if they're from America? And then I was like, nah, no way. Yes, John?
There's one thing too, the reality of the modern language. I mean, we don't speak Latin anymore. And we need a pope that can handle the English language really well, right? It's the governing language of the world. So we missed that under Francis. And a lot of times there was confusion about what did he really mean? He was speaking in Italian, he was speaking in Spanish. Well, we now have a pope who can handle himself well, because he's going to be dealing with leaders from all over the world. And that is, like we know, it's the lingua, it's the language of, it's the new French. It's what politicians speak among themselves. So in that sense, it's a good thing.
There's a great website called collegeofcardinalsreport.com where they grade his stances on stuff. And his grades aren't
very
great.
important, by the way. Yeah.
We're going to read that.
That report, Charlie, that report is legit. Okay. Edward Penn and Diane Montano are actually standing to the left of me. They're the ones who put that 500-page report together. It is the best in the world.
Hold that thought. Hold that 1 sec. Okay, continue. We have a new pope. It is. I saw that. I was like, wait, Robert Prevost? That's an American. John, please keep going.
So that report was essential. Okay, you have, because of the number of cardinals who were named, we already know that a lot of them didn't know each other. It was a lady who basically took it upon themselves, specifically Edward Penton, fantastic reporter, and Diane Montano, who are actually standing right next to me. I put together that report. And they gave that to the cardinals. They were literally standing outside those preparatory meetings and delivering those books to them. So those cardinals were reading that, okay? That scorecard, which I briefly went through it. I mean, maybe, Charlie, you can kind of mention on air what that report grades Robert Prevost on certain issues, because that's very telling.
Yeah, so he's against female deacons. He is ambiguous on blessing same-sex couples. He is in favor of promoting a synodal church. Do you know what that is?
Like synodal church. Yeah. Look, no.
Keep going, please, John. Please.
Here we go. He's coming out.
All right, let's go full screen. Let's watch it. Thank you. John, you've been great. This is terrific. Let's go full screen.
Liz Led was talking about the Pauline Chapel, and that's where the new Pope, now Pope Leo XIV, when he will walk down this hallway in the chapel, and at the end of the chapel is an image of Peter crucified upside down, but the artist turned his head so that when the new Pope is walking down the hallway, Peter's eyes are following.
Here we are.
There we are.
Pope Leo XIV is now appearing, coming to the central loggia of the Basilica.
Very special moment.
Very special moment.
And
there he is.
There he is.
And the applause going up, the greeting, the waving.
Big smiles. How amazing.
How amazing.
And Dr. Elizabeth was also talking about the symbolism of the red that he's wearing. You know, it is a sacrificial role, and that is the symbol of the cloth that he's wearing right now.
We see this beautiful close-up view from the side there, at the same level as the loggia. Leo XIV.
Leo XIV.
Amazing. Smiling.
And
you can see who wouldn't be taken by the moment. And,
I think going through his mind, you know, the weight of this responsibility.
Oh, yeah. You can see it on his face.
You can see it on his face.
Amazing.
After this, you're never the same person.
No.
And we're hearing the bands below, the mutual salute of the anthems, the hymns of the Vatican hymn and the Italian national anthem, as we do traditionally for Easter and Christmas, as we mentioned.
And after this, now Pope Leo XIV, he will give a greeting and impart his first apostolic blessing, the Urbi et Orbi, to the city and to the whole world.
So that blessing extends to everyone who is watching, everyone who is listening, your family, wherever you are. It's a great moment to prepare ourselves for this first blessing.
This most solemn blessing, you can just feel and see the emotion on his face.
Yeah.
And the crowds there gathered in St. Peter's Square, still arriving, we're being told, from the avenues surrounding the Vatican there, the streets and the...
So just getting messages here, congratulations, God bless the Pope. And you can hear the chanting from the square.
Long live the Pope, vive il Papa, vive il Papa.
Vive il Papa.
And we're all silent now, awaiting his first words.
Tutti voi, fratelli, sorelle carissimi, questo è il primo saluto del Cristo risorto, il buon pastore che ha dato la vita per il gregge di Dio. Anch'io vorrei che questo saluto di pace entrasse nel vostro cuore, raggiungesse le vostre famiglie, a tutte le persone, ovunque siano, a tutti i popoli, a tutta la terra. La pace sia con voi.
Okay, we're going to keep coverage of this. This is history.
Questa è la pace di Cristo risorto, una pace disarmata e una pace disarmante, umile e perseverante. Proviene da Dio, Dio che ci ama tutti incondizionalmente. Ancora conserviamo nei nostri orecchi quella voce debole ma sempre coraggiosa di Papa Francesco che benediva Roma. Il Papa che benediva Roma dava la sua benedizione al mondo intero, quella mattina del giorno di Pasqua. Consentitemi di dar seguito a quella stessa benedizione. Dio ci vuole bene, Dio vi ama tutti e il male non prevarrà. Siamo tutti nelle mani di Dio. Pertanto, senza paura, uniti, mano nella mano con Dio e tra di noi, andiamo avanti. Siamo discepoli di Cristo. Cristo ci precede. Il mondo ha bisogno della sua luce. L'umanità necessita di Lui come il ponte per essere raggiunta da Dio e dal suo amore. Aiutateci anche voi, poi gli uni gli altri, a costruire ponti con il dialogo, con l'incontro, unendoci tutti per essere un solo popolo, sempre in pace. Grazie a Papa Francesco. Voglio ringraziare anche tutti i confratelli cardinali che hanno scelto me per essere successore di Pietro e camminare insieme a voi come Chiesa unita, cercando sempre la pace, la giustizia, cercando sempre lavorare come uomini e donne fedeli a Gesù Cristo, senza paura, per proclamare il Vangelo, per essere missionari. Sono un figlio di Sant'Agostino, agostiniano, che ha detto: con voi sono cristiano e per voi vescovo. In questo senso possiamo tutti camminare insieme verso quella patria la quale Dio ci ha preparato. Alla Chiesa di Roma un saluto speciale. Dobbiamo cercare insieme come essere una Chiesa missionaria, una Chiesa che costruisce i ponti, il dialogo, sempre aperta a ricevere, come questa piazza con le braccia aperte, a tutti coloro che hanno bisogno della nostra carità, la nostra presenza, il dialogo, l'amore. Y se me permiten también una palabra, un saludo a todos aquellos, y en modo particular a mi querida diócesis de Chiclayo en el Perú. Donde un pueblo fiel ha acompañado a su obispo, ha compartido su fe y ha dado tanto para seguir siendo iglesia fiel de Jesucristo. A tutti voi, fratelli e sorelle di Roma, d'Italia, di tutto il mondo, vogliamo essere una Chiesa sinodale, una Chiesa che cammina, una Chiesa che cerca sempre la pace, cerca sempre la carità, cerca sempre di essere vicino specialmente a coloro che soffrono. Oggi il giorno della supplica alla Madonna di Pompei. Nostra Madre Maria vuole sempre camminare con noi, stare vicino, aiutarci con la sua intercessione e il suo amore. Allora vorrei pregare insieme a voi. Preghiamo insieme per questa nuova missione, però per tutta la Chiesa, per la pace nel mondo. E chiediamo questa grazia speciale di Maria, nostra Madre. Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te. Tu sei benedetta fra le donne e benedetto è il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù. Santa Maria, Madre di Dio, prega per noi peccatori, adesso e nell'ora della nostra morte. Amen.
The message of Pope Francis, where he even said in Spanish and Italian, tutti, tutti,
Il
tutti,
Santo
todos.
Padre Leone, a tutti I fedeli presenti
And the Holy
e a
Father Pope
quelli che
Leo,
ricevono
and
la
to
sua
all people
benedizione a
in the
mezzo
square
della
and all
radio, della
receiving
televisione e
are
delle
hearing this
altre tecnologie
through
di
new technology,
comunicazione,
online, everywhere.
concede l'indulgenza plenaria
Offers
nella forma
the
stabilita
plenary
dalla
indulgence
Chiesa.
in the formula established by the
Preghiamo
Church.
Dio
We pray
Onnipotente
to Almighty God
perché conservi a
that
lungo il Papa a
He may
guida della
keep the Pope
Chiesa e conceda pace e
protect him
unità alla Chiesa
and
in
guide the
tutto il
Church
mondo.
and the entire world. Now He'll give this most solemn blessing to the entire world, to all of you joining us.
To everyone.
So we now prepare ourselves to receive this solemn blessing wherever we are, at home, in your car, at work, wherever you are.
Sancti Apostoli Petrus et Paulus, de quorum potestate et auctoritate confidimus.
So
Ipsi intercedant pro nobis ad
the
Dominum.
holy apostles Peter
Amen.
and Paul,
Precibus et meritis Beate Mariae semper Virginis,
and we also
Beati
pray
Michaelis
to the
Arcangeli,
Blessed Mary,
Beati Ioannis Baptiste,
to
et Sanctorum Apostolorum Petri et
John-
Pauli et omnium Sanctorum. Misereatur vestri omnipotens Deus, et dimissis omnibus peccatis vestris, perducat vos Iesus Christus ad vitam aeternam. Indulgentiam, absolutionem et remissionem omnium peccatorum vestrorum, spatium vere et fructuose penitentiae, cor semper penitens, et emendationem vitae, gratiam et consolationem Sancti Spiritus, et finalem perseverantiam in bonis operibus tribuat vobis omnipotens et misericors Dominus. Amen. Et benedictio Dei omnipotentis, Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti descendat super vos et maniat semper.
And we just heard the blessing there, received the blessing there of Pope Leo XIV, and to the world, to the city, this most solemn blessing to all of us and all of you listening and watching out there.
What is interesting, he is smiling, and I found very touching the fact that he made reference to his former diocese in Peru and spoke to them in Spanish. Very, very touching moment, and how I thanking them for how they accompanied him. And so, from this moment, I think we all accompany the new Holy Father with our prayers and support.
And once again, he asked, just like Pope Francis did before, he asked for continued prayers. You know, this is a heavy task, as we all noted before, and he continues to ask all of us for prayers and also for the intercession of Our Lady on the special feast day.
and he asked us especially to be grateful, as he is Pontifex of both orders, that we should all be building bridges, both here in the Diocese of Rome, in Italy, and throughout the world, and that we should build that on fraternity and on solidarity. so many times Pope Francis told us the same. There have been false debates, I think, in leading up to this about unity and diversity and things, but he's made it clear that he's looking for us to be united, but also to be the bridge builders and to bring about peace in the world.
We're seeing this stunning footage, or this video, Vatican drone there going close to the balcony and seeing, I think the first time we meet images like this up close. The new Pope.
There's about 100,000 people we're getting in the square right now who are seeing Pope Leo XIV for the first time.
Okay, you are watching history here. Again, we're still learning about this new Pope. He is officially the Pope, is that right? There's that, yep. But there's an official, I think.
There's no electoral college on this one.
No, but there is an official ceremony next Sunday, I believe, where all the heads of state come in. And look, the Pope, we don't know a lot. We do know that he attacked J.D. Vance back in February. I believe this is a legitimate Twitter account. He said, J.D. Vance is wrong. Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love for others. Boy, that's a misinterpretation of what JD was saying. But okay, we'll see. We'll find out more. So
we'll see.
Now we have Frank Pavone. Frank, great to see you. Thank you for taking the time. What is your reaction to this new announcement?
Well, I'm astonished that they chose an American. What a surprise. And I have some connections to this cardinal. Our associate director at Priests for Life is also an Augustinian, Father Dennis Wild. He's been with us since 1998. And he knew the new Pope when he was at Villanova, and he started, Prevost started Villanovans for Life. And we know, there's a lot to be unpacked here, but, the name Leo, that's important as well. And I'm sure a lot of comment is going to be about, what is he trying to convey by Leo XIV. But Leo XIII was known, of course, for his emphasis on Catholic social teaching and enabling the church to speak to the modern age when it came to the social doctrine of the church. So hopefully there we're going to see a better handling of this than we saw under Francis, and a little bit more doctrine put in along with just the idea of embracing and accompanying people. But that remains to be seen. But I'm confident that we've done now what I thought we were going to do, what I thought the Cardinals were going to do, was to make some kind of a course correction. I don't think this is going to be Francis II, but a lot remains to be seen because, Charlie, the office shapes the man also, and I think we're going to see that happen too.
So what then is the expectation? Well, how does this work? Does a pope give like a couple formal speeches to kind of set the tone of his papacy? How does that work, Frank?
We will see a few things start to happen. One of the most important things, just like we see in the civic arena, is what kind of appointments he will start making. Now, it's interesting. They chose a man here who was in charge of the Congregation for Bishops. So over recent years, he has been responsible for the selection of bishops, which, of course, is a primary responsibility of the Pope, to assign bishops to dioceses. So we're going to see very soon, not only in terms of whom he appoints as bishops, but whom he appoints in the various offices of the Vatican, because he has the prerogative to, bring in his own people or to let those who are in place now stay in place. I would look at that as much as the speeches he will give. He will be giving speeches now regularly. Hopefully he'll be of the style where we hear a lot from him, popes that, will preach every day and send out lots of messages. I think that's good. I hope he takes to social media right away for the sake of transparency. But yes, we will see over the next few weeks. We'll be able to assess, I think, pretty quickly the direction in which his thinking is going to go.
So Taylor Marshall is saying this is bad, but I mean, again, I'm not even weighing in on it. This is not my thing, right? John, what do you think here? I mean, we want to keep this uplifting, and I'm the Protestant here. I want a good, conservative, traditional based, pro-life, anti-trans Pope. What did we get here?
I think honesty is the best recipe for true enthusiasm and hope. And I have to admit, I do have cause for great concern. although what Father Frank was just saying is also true that, you know, a pope, someone can change once they've been handed the responsibility of 1.2 billion Catholics, right? But prior to this, I mean, the scorecard speaks for itself. You know, Poland in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s made Karol Wojtyła John Paul II. In the same way, Prevost, Pope Leo XIV, carries his background. And you said it yourself. What's his scorecard? He was ambiguous on same-sex blessings. I'm sorry, but the Bible is not ambiguous on that central issue. So he also, during his speech, you know, there was, you know, good and said a lot of the right things. I mean, but he did use that word dialogue. Dialogue has been hijacked by the left inside our church and outside of our church as this kind of a false idea that we can, yes, talk with the world, but never call them to repentance. You're going to laugh, but I'm looking behind. There's another rooftop, and on that rooftop right now is a priest by the name of Father James Martin. He's caused great scandal in the Catholic Church. And what does he run with? He was very close to Pope Francis, and he ran with dialogue. Let's welcome everyone in the church, but never call them in repentance. I'm sorry, but you can't do that. You must be like Christ and, you know, address their sins. So we'll see. You know, time will tell. Don't forget, if the New York Times or the liberal newspapers are running positive media about you, that should make you think twice. And that is what happened last 3 days with Cardinal Prevost. But, you know, I think, Charlie, it would be good at some point, maybe we offer a prayer in our own way for this man, for the mission that he is about to undertake.
Okay. We have, let's just stay right there. It's a good time to talk about those of us Protestants. We listen to our podcasts. You know, we love it. Alan Jackson Ministries. We're honored to be partnering with Alan Jackson Ministries. Today, I want to point you to their podcast called Culture and Christianity, the Alan Jackson Podcast. What makes it unique is Pastor Alan's biblical perspective. He takes the truth from the Bible and applies it to the issues we're facing today. He doesn't just discuss the problems in every episode. He gives practical things we can do to make a difference. His guests have incredible expertise and powerful testimonies. It's called the Culture and Christianity Podcast. It's informative and encouraging, and you can find it on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Alan Jackson Ministries is working hard to bring biblical truth back into the culture. You can find out more at Pastor Alan at alanjackson.com. That is alanjackson.com. The final segment, guys, we're going to go through the break here. I want to actually talk about the American aspect of this. What does it mean for our country to have a pope? Will that mean a resurgence in faith? We've never had this before. When John Paul II went back to Poland, it was a revival that happened. Will we see something similar here? Stay right there. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, I mean, look, not everyone was doing it in 2020. Well, not us, but Mr. Prevost, the new Pope, was retweeting George Floyd propaganda. But that is what it is, whatever. So, again, I'm not Catholic, so you guys can sort this out amongst yourselves. Let's talk about the American aspect of this. I'll start with you, Frank. Frank, what do you think this will mean for the country, for our nation that we love, to have a Pope from America? He's from America, but he served in Peru. But he will be known as the American Pope. And also just, is there something else going on here? Why they would go out of their way to choose an American Pope, Frank?
That's the most surprising element of this to me. And I think that we can, first of all, say one of my concerns, you know, our concerns with Pope Francis was he didn't seem to understand or appreciate what was going on here in America, our American politics, certainly. And, you know, not to say that this is necessarily going to be a pro-Trump Pope. But I have the hope that, you know, at least coming from more of a familiarity with America, he will be able to work better with the Trump administration than Pope Francis did. Now, having said that, again, we'll have to just see the specifics as they unfold. The other thought is very interesting, like what you said about John Paul going back to Poland. Certainly, he's going to make trips to America. And I think this can really engage the attention of the American public to, you know, what is a pope anyway, you know, and get a renewed interest in what is going on with the Catholic Church. But I'm even more excited about in the opposite direction, how the understanding of America and our Constitution and our system of government will affect the way he leads the whole church and the way he works with the current administration.
Stay right there. One final segment. I'll go through it. John, what is your thought of an American Pope? What will this mean for our homeland?
I mean, on its face, it could be do a lot of good. Like Father Frank said, he's going to make some trips, probably to the United States, which they have large gatherings. But here's another thing to throw at you. We've had arguably one of the most confusing pontificates under Pope Francis. Well, what are the numbers shown? We've had a rise in the number of Catholic conversions across the country. So it's kind of a paradox in some ways that you might have a pope who wasn't more progressive, but yet you had all these conversions. So it's not necessarily symmetrical. It can help for sure, but that remains to be seen. I think at the end of the day, what's going to create conversions, it's kind of like how Trump won the White House. It wasn't Trump that won the White House. He did, of course, on his personality, but it was us who saw our task, our own mission. In this case, it's a mission of holiness, of getting to heaven and becoming Christ-like, which is going to create the witness and create more conversions. So, Pope or not, American or not, gringo or not, holy Pope or sinner Pope, it's up to us. That's how we're going to make the change. I really believe that.
Stay right there. More after the break. They're really playing into the more religious theme here, right? Like, what can we expect out of an American Pope? And then you want to go more into the history.
Yeah, well, so an American Pope, what we can expect, and this is not even necessarily the fault of the new Pope, but 100% you will see obviously a big attempt by media in the U.S., media worldwide, to play up any conflict between the American Pope and the American president. Even if he doesn't play into that directly, they will do it. They will hype it up. They will try to generate that. So we have to be ready for that. We have to be ready to not fall into this trap where this atheist guy at the New York Times is saying the Pope said this, so I have to agree with what the atheist guy at the New York Times says I'm supposed to think about what the Pope says about the president. You can't fall for this stuff. Don't let it brainwash you in any way. There will be attempts to do that. I've been spending, while we've been talking here, I was looking up, he's Leo XIV. We haven't had a Leo Pope in over 100 years. We don't know for sure who this was inspired by, but a good bet is you look at the last guy to hold that name. Leo XIII was Pope for quite a long time, about 25 years. He's one of the longest reigning popes ever. He's pretty interesting. He's from a period where they were called the prisoner of the Vatican. So Italy had conquered the Papal States, which used to be a thing. And because the Pope did not recognize this, for the 25 years he was Pope, he did not leave Vatican City. So 25 years just in that little St. Peter's Basilica area, could not leave. Refused to leave, I should say. But what Leo XIII was interesting about, he was kind of the first Pope to really engage with what we would call modern day economic and social issues. So he wrote encyclicals where he would say, basically, capital has duty to labor. You have to treat workers well. Workers have to have certain rights. And this would cause people to have different takes on him. They would say he was, favorable, that it was pro-socialist or proto-Marxist. It wasn't really. He was more kind of cutting a middle path between left-wing economics and capitalism. Trying to carve out his own sort of Catholic position on it. Another thing he promoted, which I think we would have some sympathy with, is he called it subsidiarity, which is that decisions generally should be made at a local, at a smaller level, rather than imposed by very high up authorities as a principle of government. And as American conservatives, we're obviously sympathetic to that in an innate sort of way. So that's just looking at what he might be drawing inspiration from. I think initially we could look at, he picked this guy's name. So I think you'll see a lot of people talking about that in the days to come.
Final thoughts, Frank, and then we'll throw it to John. Frank, final thoughts.
You know, one of the keys to the thinking of a bishop or a cardinal is his coat of arms. They have a particular choice of a motto that they put on their coat of arms. And for Cardinal Prevost, it is, "In the one Christ, we are one." And I like that very much because obviously, you know, and he started out his remarks today by doing what? By talking about the risen Christ. You know, he didn't start by talking about himself. And this is really what a pope is supposed to do. And in the one Christ, we are one, gives, we're going to have to unpack that in the coming weeks and months and see how that's a key to his thinking. But it could point to a good effort to heal the divisions that have happened in the church, certainly the divisions among the wider body of Christ. And of course, what always has to be front and center for pointing to the one Lord and head of the church, who is Jesus Christ.
Take this for whatever it's worth. He is a registered Republican. Our Turning Point Action team actually pulled this. I'm not kidding. This is credit to Tyler and Turning Point Action. And he voted in Republican primaries when he was not living in Peru. Final thoughts, John.
Charlie, are you okay if I lead you all in a prayer just for what this means
yes,
for Christians
please.
around the world?
Yes.
We ask the Heavenly Father right now to bless Christians around this world in this moment for the universal church. We ask Christians to renew their love for the Lord, and may he bless us right now. Bless Robert Prevost in his role as Pope of Catholics around the world. And we ask that Our Lady be close to him and ultimately keep us centered on what truly matters, reaching heaven and bringing people there with us. In the name of Jesus Christ, the Lord, amen.
Amen. Thank you, John. Thank you, Frank. And Blake, we'll wrap this up about 30 seconds. Thank you, guys. I know this was a live breaking show. Thank you to Parker and Rob Sig from Real America's Voice for allowing us to go through 2 hours straight here. And there is a new pope. It is Leo the 14th, right?
Leo the 14th.
Pope Leo the 14th from Chicago. I got to wear my Cubs hat tomorrow. And he is a registered Republican who votes in Republican primaries. The primary is the key. If he was like faking it, he wouldn't vote in the Republican primaries in Chicago. That's like you would not do that unless you actually believe it. So he might be a single issue pro-life voter, which honestly would be, not the worst thing. Email us freedom@charliekirk.com. See you guys tomorrow.
tried to shut them up.
There's no guarantee to free speech.
They tried to cancel them.
Deplatforming works.
They even threw them in jail.
Peter Navarro,
Steve Bannon,
now in prison.
But they couldn't stop them.
It's not a prison bill that will ever shut me up.
They call them rebels.
Basket of deplorables.
They call them rogues.
They claim to guns or religion.
And they say they're outlaws.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
War Room presents Rebels, Rogues, and Outlaws.
You set out to take Vienna. Take Vienna!
The national bestseller by longtime Bannon producer Dan Fluette. Take a journey through the pictorial history of War Room in a culture that celebrates the weak. Show your support by standing with the rebels. Go to doitfluette.com or scan the QR code on your screen. Use the code RAV20 for 20% off your order. Stand with the rebels and never back down.
Happens when the fourth turning meets fifth generation warfare.
A commentator, international social media sensation, and former Navy intelligence veteran.
This is Human Events with your host, Jack Posobiec.
Christ is King.
La pace sia con tutti voi. Fratelli, sorelle carissimi, questo è il primo saluto del Cristo risorto, il buon pastore che ha dato la vita per il gregge di Dio. Anch'io vorrei che questo saluto di pace entrasse nel vostro cuore, raggiungesse le vostre famiglie, a tutte le persone, ovunque siano, a tutti i popoli, a tutta la terra. La pace sia con voi.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. Here we are live in
Big Tech has been canceling conservative voices.
Former Facebook employees admit Facebook routinely suppresses conservative views.
President Donald Trump is going to the courts to fight for your First Amendment rights.
I will never stop fighting to defend constitutional rights.
Follow Real America's Voice on Getter and join like-minded patriots to win the battle over cancel culture. Real America's Voice is a news platform dedicated to keeping people informed.
Here's CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. These guys are gangsters. They're global gangsters.
Headlines from here in the U.S. and around the globe.
And the reality. So Lori Lightfoot lost her re-election yesterday, and she lost it badly.
Full coverage of live events.
Bringing thousands of bottles of water, Trump water, actually, most of it.
Real news, honest views, Real America's Voice.
So when they talk about equity, they don't talk about building people up. They talk about bringing people down to the lowest level, so everyone has an equal outcome. Everyone sucks.
If there was any doubt at this point, we know Mayor Pete is not the right man for the job.
Not that I would ever do this. I could be a better spokesperson for Joe Biden if I was to just sell my soul to the devil than they are. I know their own talking points better than they do.
The radical left would really rather you stay in a box. A nice, quiet, manageable box.
Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of kiki.
The far left wants a lot of things, but they're about to be disappointed because Americans, we don't like boxes and we don't stay quiet. How to join us in the fight to make your voice heard at americasvoicematters.com. Real America's Voice is a news platform dedicated to keeping people informed.
Welcome to the Democrat-run cities of America. Yes, he killed her.
Headlines from here in the U.S. and around the globe.
The world is reliant on China, and that's just how China wants it.
Full coverage of live events.
They become stars fairly well. We won the election twice.
Real news, honest views, real America's Voice.
I don't know about you, but I'm mad right now. Expression of there is no going back. There is no returning.
Where's the FBI raid for Hunter Biden and Chinese Communist Party deals?
There was a behind-the-scenes, behind-the-back campaign and agenda that people thought that they could game Trump.
Understand what America First truly means.
Welcome to the Second American Revolution.
All right, Jack Posobiec, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's very special edition of Human Events Daily. Today is May 8th, 2025, Anno Domini, the 80th anniversary the end of World War II in Europe, VE Day, 80 years ago. And 80 years ago, my grandfather, John Posobiec I, was right where I am, right here in Rome, Italy, where moments ago, just down, you could see the this side. You can see, I want to bring in everyone who's watching on the Real America's Voice, as well as everyone who's listening on the Salem Radio Network, Hour 3, Charlie Kirk. Just over my right shoulder, you can see St. Peter's Basilica. Absolute shock. The first American Pope has been chosen. Already people are digging into his social media, where he was actually an active Twitter user. Robert Prevost, a cardinal born in Chicago, believe it or not, born in 1955. He's 69 years old, which means he's more than likely going to be Pope for some time. At least 10 plus years of this papacy, maybe 15, maybe even 20. This is someone who went to school actually not far from me in Philadelphia. He went to Villanova. I went to Temple University. But folks, I'm going to tell you right now, what I'm seeing from his social media, and he's taken the name Pope Leo, I believe it's Leo XIV. What I'm seeing from his social media does not bode well for Trump supporters, because we're seeing things here where he's attacking J.D. Vance, and not years ago, very recently, promoting anti-Trump and anti-Bukele articles regarding the deportations of criminal illegals to the United States. He was attacking that less than 3 weeks ago. We even see him posting anti-Trump articles from when Trump first ran for office. I'm not going to mince words, folks. I'm not going to mince words. This is not the election that conservatives wanted. God save the church. Now, of course, we take a moment of grace. We want to have the best papacy possible. I've talked recently about how in the American church, and I've been saying this all week, there is a burgeoning split. There's the division. There are two wings of the American church right now, right at the very first time an American pope has been chosen. These two wings exist as thus. One is the modernist wing. That is the wing that this pope comes from. He's in the vein of Francis. Dr. Taylor Marshall called this the act of picking of Francis II. Now, a lot of people thought that Parolin, the current Secretary of State of the Vatican, would get that choice. However, he is older and perhaps there were some rumors about some health issues, so he may have rolled over. Some people have also said that there could have been a conservative choice, a Cardinal Sarah. I didn't think that was in the cards, or likely, potentially also Cardinal Pizzaballa, but of course he didn't have the institutional backing that the liberals and some of the moderates did. So the question is, are we going to get a moderate pope, or are we going to get someone who continues to be progressive, continues to attack the idea of a country having its own borders, continues to wade into these political issues? Now, there's a number of issues as well that we certainly hope go on, and we hope that the new pope stays, if he's going to stay in line with Pope Francis. We certainly hope that he maintains an anti-war position. We hope that he maintains this position that he affirms only men can be priests. Nuns, of course, are always available. The sisterhood is always open for women, but priests are uniquely situated for a male role. It is only for men. Same-sex relationships. This is something the Catholic Church has never accepted at all. Will we see the same teaching on LGBTQ ideas and issues? Will we see the same teaching on gender issues? All of these need to hold firm. But the main one that a lot of people are talking about, I'm very concerned about, myself included, borders and immigration. Will this pope continue to antagonize President Trump and J.D. Vance? And you certainly, by the way, just take it a step back. And I was just down there at St. Peter's. I know we have a lot of the video of myself and running to be there for when the actual moment happened. I just watched him come out on the balcony with my own eyes after we saw the white smoke here from the balcony of our rental, and we ran down to be able to get there. My brother is currently on the roof of the Vatican, and we got there as soon as possible to see Pope Leo for the very first time. Very first time I've seen a pope walk out like that in my life. Now, that being said, the choice of an American pope, it is clearly a reaction to President Trump. And I honestly can't see this read in almost any other light. This is clearly a reaction. Now, I call this a reaction because here's the question. Is this someone who wants to work with the American president, being that he is from the United States, being that he is someone who speaks English, being that he is someone who grew up in the United States? Or is this someone who antagonizes? Is this someone who will be antagonizing President Trump? Well, we're going to have Dr. Taylor Marshall joining us here in about 20 minutes. But folks, there's a lot of questions. A lot of questions. Folks, we need to pray. We need to pray now. We pray that cooler heads prevail. Someone is now sending me a video saying that there was a Maryland man hoax tweet that was retweeted on things. Here's also Gabe Gardini. He has an interesting tweet. He says, Chicagoans are very familiar with Robert Prevost, now Pope Leo. He is indeed quite conservative on the social issue of marriage and family, albeit not conservative on the migrant issue. So that's Gabe Guardini. He is the chairman of the Ohio College Republicans. And so there's a lot of questions that we need to figure out what's going on in terms of this. Obviously something that I'm sure the conservatives are not, something that conservatives were not hoping for. But that doesn't mean you pout. That doesn't mean you whine and you take your ball and you go home. No, that's not how we do this. How do we do this? We work with what we got. Sometimes the hard things to do are the only things you can do. You have to go forward. You have to march forward. We are in a mission. We are in a mission to protect our country. We are in a mission to bring people to God. We are in a mission to save the West. That's what this is about. That's what this is all about. And these political issues that folks wade into, okay, these are not the spiritual issues of theology that, of course, we could also get into, but that's not what we do here. What we do here on Human Events Daily is we get into the political. And in the realm of the political, the Pope is not infallible. I'm going to say that again. In the realm of the political, the Pope is not infallible. He is a world leader. He is another world leader. And I'm sure, by the way, that the president will be inviting him to the White House very soon, because we need to see from the jump, from the absolute jump, whether or not Pope Leo is interested in working with President Trump or, as we can see from his Twitter feed, working against him. And I certainly hope for the former. Perhaps now that he is a representative of Catholics all around the world, he will understand that it was Catholics who delivered the White House for President Trump, and perhaps, just perhaps, the new Pope will listen. Jack Posobiec live here in Rome. You're following Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice, and the Salem Radio Network.
Welcome back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. Well, the world has a new pope, and he is an American. 69-year-old Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost has been elevated to the highest position in the Catholic Church and to one of the most globally recognized spiritual positions. His papal name is Leo XIV. The Chicago-born pope is the first American pope in history. He served in South America, having been a missionary and then archbishop in Peru. He later went on to work in the Vatican as prefect of the Vatican's Dicastery for Bishops. In that particular position, he was in charge of vetting nominations for bishops around the world. Among his first words as Pope, Leo XIV reminded the faithful gathered in St. Peter's Square that God loves all of us without conditional limits. He also thanked his predecessor, Pope Francis, and the cardinals who elected him. We'll, of course, continue to have more on the selection of the Pope throughout the day. In the meantime, the Trump administration has reached its first post-tariff trade deal. It's with the United Kingdom. President Trump describes the agreement as full and comprehensive. He's also foreshadowing what's to come, saying that many other deals, which are in serious stages of negotiation, are to follow. Today's deal sets the stage for Saturday's talks in Geneva, Switzerland, between the U.S. and Chinese trade delegations.
I would like to see China opened. You know, one of the big things here is, and nobody would know this, but the UK was largely closed. It was very much closed to trade, and now it's opened. And a lot of the financial reporters are very happy about that because it's so much. I listened to them. I hope they get countries opened up. And then you compete on a fair basis, but you can't compete when you're not allowed to go there. China would be the number one example of that. You know, it's very closed.
And right now, China remains the only country not under a 90-day reprieve from President Trump's major reciprocal tariffs. That's a quick check of your headlines.
Today, you know, they talk about influencers. These are influencers, and they're friends of mine. Jack Posobiec. Where's Jack? Jack, he's done a great job.
All right, Jack Posobiec, here we are live, Rome, Italy, just steps away from the Vatican. Right behind me, I want to bring in Real America's Voice, as well as the third hour of the Charlie Kirk Show on the Salem Radio Network. Very quickly, folks, one of today's episode sponsors is My Patriot Supply. We know there's something going on with our farmland in the United States that isn't getting enough attention. The Chinese have been buying up hundreds of thousands of acres of it. They've taken control over critical supply chains, things like fertilizer, animal feed, farm equipment. Why? It's clear they're tightening their grip on global food production, and if things go south, we need to be ready. That's why I trust My Patriot Supply. They're America's largest emergency preparedness company. And right now, when you get their 4-week emergency food supply, you get 4 free 72-hour food kits, an extra 12 days of food absolutely free. 4 weeks of delicious meals lasting up to 25 years, delivering 2,000 calories per day. Ship fast and free. We can't control what China does. We control how prepared we are. Go to mypatriotsupply.com. Get your 12 days of free food. mypatriotsupply.com. mypatriotsupply.com. I'm very excited now to bring on John Yep of Catholics for Catholics, who is also the sponsor of our coverage here in Rome. Catholics for Catholics. John, I've got to get your initial take on Pope Leo XIV, the first American Pope.
I wish it was Pope Leo XIII, but it's 14th, right? So it's he's obviously chosen the name, and you know, to maybe in some capacity mimic the very traditional pontificate of Pope Leo XIII. So you know, that's a good thing going for him. You know, we're grateful to see that. I mean, Jack, you and I were both in the square. The moment, right, that the white smoke came out, I mean, how about that? Pretty crazy to have 50,000 people or more just race to be there in the square for this moment. And for me,
John,
personally,
by the way, something that occurs to me about Pope Leo XIII. If I remember correctly, Pope Leo XIII is the first pope to ever appear on film and the oldest person to have ever been filmed, himself being born in 1810. So there you go. Little fact right off the top of my head about Pope Leo XIII.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Of course, Pope Leo XIII is the one who produced so many of the first encyclicals, which laid the foundation for the Catholic social doctrine. A lot of those encyclicals that he wrote really went to the heart of what was basically on the rise, atheistic Marxism, right? So he condemned that in his pontificate. So
is that when
strong Pope,
when he was born. So when Pope Leo XIII was born, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams were still alive.
There you go. He was around with them 14 years. I think they died in 1824. So yeah, he overlapped with them. But in any case, we have Pope Leo XIV. I do not think that he will be like Pope Leo XIII, but we'll see if I'm proven wrong, right? Jack, when he first came out, did that not for you?
Well, it was.
Did you?
For me, it's I guess on there's two sides. There's the part of me that's the reporter who wants to know all the details, who wants to know everything that went down. Then there's the personal side, which just for me, as a Catholic, it was a tremendous experience to be looking at someone who's in the seat of St. Peter, a successor of St. Peter, direct apostolic succession all the way through from, and again, above the spot where St. Peter himself was martyred and is buried. And that is just something, and you and I were saying earlier on the Charlie Kirk show, just a surreal moment that I never thought I would experience in my life, having been a kid who grew up in a working class area in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, to be looking at the Pope on his very first public address years later. Just something I never ever saw happening. 1 minute to the break, though, John, we've seen a lot of these tweets up there. Is this an anti-Trump Pope?
Hard to say. Yes, he did go, after J.D. Vance a little bit there early on. He also has retweeted some of the George Floyd things earlier on, but I don't want to write someone off. I wouldn't want someone to write me off just based on tweets alone, right? It's not exactly fair. So we'll see how he shapes out. But, I'm still just currently at the moment kind of caught up in the moment of what it was like, I'm a Catholic too, of having our spiritual father promise to us in John chapter 21, when Christ asked Peter to shepherd his sheep. We've seen that line of succession up until the present day, and we're living that now in this moment. So
quick break. We'll be right back, folks, here. Jack Posobiec live in Rome.
Welcome back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. Well, folks, we have a new pope, and he is an American. 69-year-old Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost has now been elevated to the highest position in the Catholic Church and to one of the most globally recognized spiritual positions. His papal name is Leo XIV. The Chicago-born pope is the first American pope in history. He also served in South America, having been a missionary and then an archbishop in Peru. He later went on to work in the Vatican as prefect of the Vatican's Discretary for Bishops. In that position, he was in charge of vetting nominations for bishops around the world. Among his first words as Pope, Leo XIV reminded the faithful gathered in St. Peter's Square that God loves all of us without condition or limit. By the way, President Trump also just out with a message on Truth Social, writing, "Congratulations to Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, who was just named Pope. It is such an honor to realize that he is the first American Pope. What excitement and what a great honor for our country. I look forward to meeting Pope Leo XIV. It will be a very meaningful moment," he writes. Again, that message coming from President Trump. Meantime, happening in Washington, D.C., FBI Director Kash Patel back on Capitol Hill looking to boost funding for his agency. He's testifying before the Senate Subcommittee on Commerce, Justice, Science, and Related Issues. Meantime, Illinois Senator Dick Durbin is calling on the Government Accountability Office to look into Director Patel's use of a government airplane, for personal use. Now, all of this comes after Patel appeared before House lawmakers on Tuesday. Director Patel also justifying his agency's worth Tuesday by joining Attorney General Pam Bondi and announcing Operation Restore Justice. The nationwide sting netted 205 accused child sex predators in just 5 days. Attorney General Bondi says there were at least 115 children who were victimized leading up to the arrests. That's a quick check of your headlines. I'm Terrence Bates. Now, let's get you back to Human Events Daily.
And Jack, where's Jack? Where's Jack? Where is he? Jack, I want to see you. Great job, Jack. Thank you. What a job you do. You know, we have an incredible thing. We're always talking about the fake news and the bad, but we have guys, and these are the guys that should be getting Pulitzers.
Hey, are we back up? All right, this is Jack Posobiec. We are back here, Rome, Italy, live, as you can see, on the balcony. This is Human Events Daily. Jack Posobiec, Real America's Voice, third hour, Charlie Kirk. About our partners at Home Title Lock. Folks, if you're a homeowner, you need to listen to this. When's the last time you checked on your home title? That's the legal proof that you own your house. Well, if you're like me, the answer is never. The answer is, in today's AI and cyber world, scammers are stealing home titles and your equity is the target. Here's how it works. Cardinals forge your own signature on one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee with your county, and boom, your home title has been transferred out of your name. They take out loans using your equity or property. You won't even know it's happened. You get a collection, and then you get foreclosure notice. That's why you need to stop what you're doing and find out today if you're already a victim. Use promo code POSO at Home Title Lock to make sure your title is still in your name. You'll also get a free title history report plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud should happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. Go to HometitleLock.com now. Use promo code POSO. That's HometitleLock.com. All right, folks.
The radical left would really rather you stay in a box. A nice, quiet, manageable box.
Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of chicky.
The far left wants a lot of things, but they're about to be disappointed because Americans, we don't like boxes and we don't stay quiet. How to join us in the fight to make your voice heard at americasvoicematters.com. Real America's Voice is a news platform dedicated to keeping people informed.
Welcome to the Democrat-run cities of America. Yes, he killed her.
Headlines from here in the U.S. and around the globe.
The world is reliant on China, and that's just how China wants it.
Full coverage of live events.
They become stars fairly well. We won the election twice.
Real news, honest views, real America's Voice.
I don't know about you, but I'm mad right now. Expression of there is no going back. There is no returning.
Where's the FBI raid for Hunter Biden and Chinese Communist Party deals?
There was a behind-the-scenes, behind-the-back campaign and agenda that people thought that they could game Trump.
Real America's Voice presents live from Studio 6B with Damon Roberts.
The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We say those words so often. Life, liberty, etc. The right to rise in a world.
I really feel like enlisting right now. And what?
Yeah, in the home that he belongs in. Oh, my Lord.
Don't miss live from Studio 6B every weekday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Americans have always been stronger and louder when we come together to right a wrong or fight for a worthy cause. Whether it was America's greatest generation defeating fascism in 1945 or concerned parents in 2021 standing up to radicalize school boards across our great country, when we have come together, we have accomplished great and amazing things. This moment is ours. With the courage to stand together, we can seize the day. But will we? How to join us in the fight to make your voice heard at americasvoicematters.com.
We must devote everything we have toward victory. Only this way can we save the America we love.
Let me walk you through this. It's been the left that has been pushing this. It's been the left that's labeling half the country domestic terrorists. It has been the left going after traditional Catholics. So at some point, when you keep pushing regular people, at some point you are going to get a pushback. And the harder you push, the harder the pushback will be. The silent majority of this country, the workers, the truck drivers, the police officers, firefighters, the people who keep the country running. Stop screwing with them. And the more you keep screwing with them, the angrier they get until they start to get a little bit crazy.
Big Tech has been canceling conservative voices.
Former Facebook employees admit Facebook routinely suppresses conservative views.
President Donald Trump is going to the courts to fight for your First Amendment rights.
I will never stop fighting to defend constitutional rights.
Follow Real America's Voice on Getter and join like-minded patriots to win the battle over cancel culture. Real America's Voice is a news platform dedicated to keeping people informed.
You're CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, these guys are gangsters. They're global gangsters.
Headlines from here in the U.S. and around the globe.
And the reality. So Lori Lightfoot lost her re-election yesterday, and she lost it badly.
Full coverage of live events.
Bringing thousands of bottles of water, Trump water, actually, most of it.
Real news, honest views, real America's Voice.
So when they talk about equity, they don't talk about building people up. They talk about bringing people down. down to the lowest level so everyone has an equal outcome. Everyone sucks.
If there was any doubt, at this point we know Mayor Pete is not the right man for the job.
Not that I would ever do this. I could be a better spokesperson for Joe Biden if I was to just sell my soul to the devil than they are. I know their own talking points better than they do.
The radical left would really rather you stay in a box. A nice, quiet, manageable box.
Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of kiki.
The far left wants a lot of things, but they're about to be disappointed because Americans, we don't like boxes and we don't stay quiet. How to join us in the fight to make your voice heard at americasvoicematters.com. Real America's Voice is a news platform dedicated to keeping people informed.
Welcome to the Democrat-run cities of America. Yes, he killed her.
Headlines from here in the U.S. and around the globe.
The world is reliant on China, and that's just how China wants it.
Full coverage of live events.
They become stars fairly well. We won the election twice.
Real news, honest views, real America's Voice.
I don't know about you, but I'm mad right now.
Expression of there is no going back. There is no returning.
Where's the FBI raid for Hunter Biden and Chinese Communist Party deals?
There was a behind-the-scenes, behind-the-back campaign and agenda that people thought that they could game Trump.
Real America's Voice presents live from studio.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec here. We're back live in Rome, Italy. You can see St. Peter's Basilica right behind me over my shoulder, the shock election of the first American Pope. I want to bring in, I believe, guys, do we have Dr. Taylor Marshall? Do we have him up on the line?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Marshall, do we have you?
Yes. Do you hear me? Hello? There we go.
All right, Dr. Marshall, give it to us. I caught a little bit of your monster live stream as I was trying to get the signal up as I was there in St. Peter's Square with just throngs of tens of thousands, at least 50,000 people, and then made my way over here for the show. Give us your worst.
Well, I did a show on Monday, worst case scenarios on the papacy, and I covered 5 cardinals that I thought would be worst case scenarios. And Cardinal Prevost was on that list of the 5, so I'm a little concerned. I like that he chose the name Leo XIV. It's a traditional name, but he signaled in his speech he's going to continue the synod on synodality. He's going to continue the legacy of Pope Francis. Jack, you know who Father James Martin is. He's probably the most liberal, pro-LGBT activist priest in America. Cardinal Prevost, who's now Pope Leo XIV, that was his pick. James Martin wanted Prevost to ask.
Guys, let's try to reconnect with Dr. Marshall. I think some of the there's some signal issue there, and I want to be able to get, because what he has to say is always extremely important, and I want to make sure that everything that we have comes in. So this is absolutely crucial, because the first steps, and by the way, I'm calling on President Trump right now. President Trump, invite the new Pope to the White House as soon as possible. Get him in there, get him in and make it happen. Have the sit down, because this is going to be setting the tone for the way forward. Look, fine to have the dialogue. I believe that the new Pope, just from what I know of some of the things that he's tweeted and said over the years, that likely is in the right place for President Trump to have a lot of agreement on issues of war. President Trump is not someone who supports more war. President Trump wants peace deals. He wants negotiations. He wants an end to wars around the world, be it Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, India, Pakistan, if this actually kicks off into something larger. He just had the ceasefire with the Houthis down in the Red Sea. And of course, making sure to confront the rise of China so that stays peaceful rather than exacerbates into war. But on the question of the border, on the question of deportations, look, we've seen these tweets. We've seen what's going on. And we need to know we need to know whether or not the situation is with the new Pope, President Trump. President Trump hold the line on immigration, hold the line on all of these things, because
White House and teach our kids to love our country. That's why my team created a kids guide to President Trump. It'll teach your kids all about President Trump's accomplishments and his vision for America. And right now, I want to give it to you for free as part of this free gift bundle.
Order your free kids guide to President Trump, get a free bonus guide, and a free membership to AMAC featuring dozens of money-saving benefits at kidsneedtrump.com. That's kidsneedtrump.com.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Most men over 40 look into the mirror and see this, when they could be seeing this. Most men over 40 look into the mirror and see this, when they could be seeing this. Most men over 40 look into the mirror and see this, when they could be using this. Particle 6-in-1 Face Cream for Men. The first of its kind anti-aging cream designed specifically for men. Fights eye bags, dark spots, and wrinkles. Visit ParticleMen.com and use the promo code on your screen to receive 25% off your entire order. Plus, we've got free shipping and a 30-day money-back guarantee. www.ParticleMen.com. Because seeing is believing.
Hi, Chef Daniel Green here with Rice Robot, the 1, 2, 3 rice cooker. Watch, 1 add the white cup for rice, 2 add the blue cup for water, 3 click it and let Rice Robot perfectly cook it.
The secret is perfect cook technology for even cooking. Then Rice Robot senses when it's done, auto stops and keeps it warm to serve.
It won't burn, overcook or undercook, guaranteed.
Get the complete Rice Robot cooking system, all for just $39.99. Order now.
Jack is a great guy. He's written a fantastic book. Everybody's talking about it. Go get it. And he's been my friend right from the beginning of this whole beautiful event. And we're going to turn it around and make our country great again. Amen.
An absolute shocking pick. The first American Pope. This is not something that anyone saw coming. This is not something that anyone suspected. Down here on the ground, first impressions, absolute shock. Absolute, utter shock. The question is, how much of this was prepared in advance? How much of this came to be during the conclave? We're going to work our sources. We're going to find out everything that happened behind those closed doors. They turned the Sistine Chapel into a Faraday cage to elect this man, now Pope Leo XIII. God save the church.
When I'm working long hours, I'm always listening to Human Events with Jack Posobiec.
All right, Jack Posobiec, here we are back live. Final segment, Human Events Daily, live from Rome, Italy. We're also up hour 3 with the Charlie Kirk audience. Folks, this is all about immigration. It's all about immigration and making sure that we can hold true to our beliefs as a nation. And people say, you know, where's the welcoming? Where's the welcoming? Should we be welcoming to immigrants? Well, to immigrants, we can be welcoming, but illegal aliens are by definition not immigrants. Illegal aliens are people who broke into the United States, like a thief or a burglar who has broken into your home. So the question of compassion can only come after the criminal act has ended. If people come up to your home and say, I'm hungry, if it's one person, if it's two people, perhaps if you so choose, you can feed them, you can work with them, you can be charitable on a one-on-one level. But a nation has no obligation whatsoever to feed the entire world if they choose to come over. For example, by the way, if I go over to my friend's house, he's got no obligation to feed me. If I go over to my friend's house with my wife and my kids and my friends and their friends beyond, guess what? There's no obligation there whatsoever. Now you're imposing. That's the correct morality on this question. And I said at the beginning of the show, I'll say it again. The Pope is not infallible on political matters. He's not. The Pope is not infallible on political matters. Guess what? Neither are you, neither am I, none of us are. But what we pray for, what we absolutely pray for, and we will continue to pray for with this new American Pope who has, Megyn Kelly had a tweet up. She said, could it be possible that some 20-year-old liberal was in control of his Twitter account and he didn't even know? We'll see, Megyn. We'll see. But when it comes down to it, folks, we need to have a Pope who's willing to work with the administration. I want to see President Trump invite him right away. Why don't you go in there? Why don't you go in? Pope Leo, sit down with President Trump, sit down with Catholic J.D. Vance, by the way. Catholic J.D. Vance, who, as we all know, was the last world leader to meet with Pope Francis. Continue that continuity by sitting down with Vice President Vance and sitting down with President Trump, the leader of your country. You as an American. And people say he was actually a registered Republican. Well, guess what? You as an American, then, in fact, it just occurred to me. Pope Leo's president is Donald J. Trump. So as an American, his president is Donald Trump. Of course, he'll be living in the Vatican, but I believe that we're going to see more American appearances of this Pope possibly than any Pope prior, because this, of course, America is his home. So, folks, we're really going to need to see how we set this relationship going forward. The adulation, as the folks can see, the face down in St. Peter's Square for God's blessing. We do hope blesses this book. And we certainly hope 18th will heed the call of the Holy Spirit, will heed the grace that has been bestowed upon him. And quite frankly, the responsibility, the awesome obligation to lead the world's Catholics, to be the vicar of Christ on earth. Well, folks, are we going to have a continuation of the antagonistic relationship that really codified much of the time between President Trump and the Pope's immediate predecessor, Pope Francis? Or will this be a relationship that starts out on the right foot? I certainly hope that it is. And I came here all the way to Rome, halfway around the planet, biggest story in the world. And what can I say, folks? The only thing that we can do, that we can all do in a moment like this, is pray. In nomine Padre et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Pater noster, qui es in celis,
sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum de nobis hodie, dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimitibus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, with the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. Christ is King. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission.
Just give me 30 minutes a day for 21 days and the weight will come off. You want to know the one mistake most people make when they want to lose weight? They try to overhaul their entire life at one time. My secret is you just commit to 3 weeks at a time.
In 21 days, I lost 10 pounds and 15 inches off my entire body.
Right now, bundle 21-day fix with Shakeology, superfood nutrition that helps you lose weight and feel less bloated, and save up to 60%. Just go to body.com today. That's body with an I.com.
Don't you hate that dirty old hose? It kinks, splits, and it always leaks. And it's way too heavy to carry around. It's time to get the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead. Just turn on the water and watch it grow to a full-size hose. It stretches and expands like a rubber band. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the new Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees. Just connect to the spigot and watch it pivot. And when you turn off the water, away it goes, shrinking back to a pocket-size hose. And it makes it easy to carry and put away. Copperhead. It's the hose that grows and pivots, flexes, and sprays. It puts itself away for another day. The Pocket Hose is so unique and so innovative, it was awarded over 100